Creative Contessa's Saturday morning / Friday evening creative medieval stuff live stream. My medieval stitch and bitch, my craft and bitch, or today we're going to be doing what someone cleverly called a braid and berate. So while we wait for everyone to join in, I'm going to go ahead and finish getting dressed and we'll chat a little bit about what we're doing today. Today we're going to be making a finger loop braid. Could you grab me any finger loop braid?
Yeah.
A finger loop braid is a kind of basically trim that, oh, this one doesn't fit through these holes. Could you please go smoosh that for me?
Yep.
A finger loop braid is a kind of trim basically made by braiding it with loops around your fingers. And this is a technique that dates back to antiquity. I mean, to before Christ. We have actually found in Hallstatt in Austria examples of finger loop braiding that that date to the 3rd or 4th century BC. Thank God for salt mines, right? So yeah, the one we're doing today is dates to the early 15th century. Good morning, everyone. Dates to the early 15th century, and it comes from 2 different sources, interestingly. You can see one of the sources here. I've actually shared this with you, my patrons and my channel members, if you want to check it out. This is a facsimile of the, or a copy of the scan, actually, of the Catherine Ptolemacha Book of Secrets. And Catherine Ptolemacha was a noblewoman in sort of mid 15th century England. And she had what is called a book of secrets, which is not a book of magic. It's literally her own personal tips for and instructions and recipes and information for running a household, right? So it is many women, many ladies had these, men had them also. And they were basically a compilation of things that a person would find useful for their lives. And Catherine has a section of her book of secrets contains 43 different braids. So that's pretty exciting. So today we're going to be working actually from the book Take 5 Bows Departed, which was a transcription and which is an interpreted set of instructions from the Harley manuscripts version of the braids. There are 40 braids in the Harley manuscript. Catherine's book has more. And but next week, I think we're gonna do something really exciting with you all. We're actually gonna reconstruct one of these braids together with you that I've never done before, and we're gonna work from the original source, from Catherine's book, from the original English. So you're gonna get to for those who want to join in that process and see what it's like to interpret 15th century English, which is very charming, by the way. Stay tuned for that next week. Yeah. Let's see. Hello, Rachel. I got to try finger loop braiding once and I was horrible at it. Kaylee, well, hopefully hopefully this will make more sense to you. For those who want to try their hand at a beginner version, because this is an advanced version, 2-person braids, not for the beginner. I definitely recommend you get good at a 1-person braid before jumping in on this adventure. But on my channel, I do have a very good tutorial on finger loop braiding. It breaks it all down really simply and clearly, from how to set up the loops, how your fingers are arranged, all of that. So if you want beginner finger loop braiding instructions on a braid, that is actually really useful, and it will actually make this braid. Although this braid isn't really this braid because it should be 3 colors, but apparently 2 of the colors are basically red. Anyway, it's called a green dorge. So I recommend you go check out that video after this live stream if you've decided you want to jump into this world. I mean, unless you really want to just dive in at the deep end with a 2-person finger loop braid, definitely I would never discourage anyone from starting at the hard end and working their way back towards the easy, just because that's generally how I live my life.
I bet you read the Silmarillion before the Hobbit.
Yeah, exactly. If you read the Silmarillion before you read the Hobbit, then you should definitely start with a 2-person finger loop braid and then work your way back to the green dorge. Let's see. Question. I wonder how many were used as cat toys. Used might be a strong word. I think the better question is, how many finger loop braids ended up as cat toys? Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of evidence of cats being indoor pets in medieval Europe. They seem to more have been a practical cohabitant, shall we say? They kept the vermin down. But, there's not a lot of evidence. I haven't found a lot of evidence of them being kept as pets. It seems in the 17th century is in Europe anyway, when there's a return to cats as pets. In fact, Cardinal Richelieu was obsessed with his cats and left them many bequests for their care after his death. And he had like a section of his palace for them, and they all had amazingly fancy names, right? So the reason I've decided to finish getting dressed is waiting for more people to join, but also you can kind of see the getting dressed process. Okay, handsome, I need you to finish here's the, yeah, so finger loop braids are part of a category of items that are called narrow wares in medieval England. And later on, the word passementerie, sort of, I think that's 17th century, maybe 16th, 17th century might be when that term arrives, gets imported back from France. So these are all this includes not just finger loop braided things, but tablet woven, other sorts of any narrow wares, things that are woven on a very narrow loom, meant to be trims or laces. And remember, lace in the medieval English sense is not what we think of as bobbin lace, right? This predates that. So this is why you talk about lacing up a dress. You're not using bobbin lace to do that. You're using what in the Middle English was called a lace, a thing used to close a garment, right? So all of these instructions use the word lace, a lace chevron of 12 bows, or a lace indented of so-and-so bows. And they don't use the word loop. The 15th century English word for loop in this context is a boa, or boas in the plural. I love 15th century English. It's so much more melodic than modern English is. So interestingly, this led to 17th and 18th century antiquarians misinterpreting, or 18th and 19th century antiquarians misinterpreting what these instructions were and misdating them, because they saw the word lace and they assumed it was what the word lace meant in their era. And so that's kind of a warning for people researching historical fashion. Make certain you don't assume that the term you see in Middle English that looks the same as a term in modern English actually means the same thing. They often don't. And so because in this, by the 18th and 19th century, it was known that bobbin lace didn't really come around until the 16th century. One of the early antiquarians looking at these sources tried to date them to 1500, but that's not at all borne out by the language, nor by the writing, the hand that is used in the two manuscripts that we have about finger loop braids. And Catherine Tolemach's Book of Secrets includes more than just braids. It actually includes some astrological texts. It has some receipts in it. It has some hints on tailoring. It's got a whole bunch of things. And there is an edition of her entire book, but I think the last time I saw it was selling for £1,000 because it's a very limited edition. So even though I really want that book, especially for the tailoring stuff, it's not on my list yet. I recently finished the book, The Plantagenets, and I am obsessed. Is that a lie? Is Luke is what a lie? Could you be a little more specific? Sorry, remember, sometimes there's a lag in the time by the time your comments actually reach me. And meanwhile, I've moved on. So yeah, Luke, if you could just be a little more specific, is what a lie. Yeah, Plantagenet society, the England under the Plantagenets, I prefer England under the Plantagenets. Things start getting kind of grim when the Tudors take over. I mean, there's a brief period of kind of happiness under Henry VIII, and there's some bright spots a little bit under the reign of Henry VII. Of course, Mary's pretty grim. The 9-Day Queen is pretty grim. Edward, Henry's son, well, geez, he was just extremist, and very bound up in his Reformation. Elizabeth was obviously a bright spot, but the 16th century is just such a gruesome time in European history.
You forgot what it was.
Totally forgot what I thought it was. A lie. Probs not. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, so remember, I am keeping an eye on the comments, but they do sometimes come with a lag. So, oh, now I should pull up my sewing project. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of this two-person braid. So in the original instructions, there are a whole bunch of chevrons, and the trim that is around, and I'm not going to because I've got a table between me and you, so I can't really easily get to the camera, but okay, yeah. Okay, so this is the one-person chevron trim, and it is eight bows, as they say in 15th century English. The one we're doing today is 12. There is also one with 16, and I think next week we're going to interpret the one from 16. I haven't looked at the interpretation of the instructions in this book of that, so we're going to work directly from the original, and you're going to get to see what a painful process that can be working through 15th century English. And sometimes if I can, I might even try to work from the manuscript rather than from the transcription if we want to make it really super advanced level. What's the top level of the game called? The top level of a video game is called like not hard level.
Depends on who's making the game.
Well, yeah, but there's like a general term like super hard expert level or something like that.
Hardcore.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, whatever. King Jesus Saves. This is not the boss level. Thank you. I knew there was a term I'd heard before. Yep. Sorry, this is not the venue for discussing political matters of any kind. And also, I definitely don't agree with any of those things King Jesus saves, nor would Jesus, actually. You should read the New Testament. Anyway, moving on. Right. So we are going to start by marking our fingers, actually, because one of the interesting things about these medieval instructions for the finger loop braiding is that the original medieval instructions are actually more useful and more clear than later instructions are, because the medieval instructions actually specify fingers very clearly. There's a system of labeling fingers. Each finger has a letter, right? And we're now going to mark each other
I
with.
don't think they'll be able to see the marks.
Well, they will from here, I think, maybe.
Look how far back we are.
Okay, maybe not. Yeah, okay. In the video, I have the tutorial. You can see all the marks clearly. So your index fingers are fingers A, middle fingers are fingers B, ring fingers are fingers C, and your pinky finger is D. So A, B, C, D. Okay, and the thumb is a tool for helping you. You don't actually put loops on the thumb. What was the question?
Do they use ribbon occasionally to make?
Do they use ribbon? So I can only tell you what we have for extant extant piece. So we have a lot of extant finger loop braiding, actually. This gets used. It gets used as neck trim. It also gets used as laces. It also gets used as purse strings, as purse string decorations. It gets used in seals. So in manuscripts, when documents are sealed, it's finger loop braiding nearly always that they're using for the seals. We see it's used for points, for arming garments. Now, I have never seen an extant braid made out of silk ribbon. But that being said, if the ribbon is fine enough, why not give it a try? I just don't think that would be such a waste of a nice pretty ribbon from a medieval mindset, right? Because that narrow wear, that silk ribbon is already super expensive. And the whole point of it is that shine from it being flat, right? And then if you braid that into a braid, then it's going to curl it up. And so it's not going to shine the same. Does that make sense? So I don't think that would have been a practice, but I can really only speak from the positive. In the positive, I've never seen an extant example of silk ribbons being used as the loops, is what I would say. We have archaeological evidence of wool being used, of cotton being used in the Langberg finds. Actually, there's some cotton finger loop braiding, of linen being used, of hemp, of nettle, I think, nettle thread. And did I already say silk? If I didn't, silk for certain. Yeah. So we have examples of finger loop braiding being made of all of that. We also have examples of multi-loop braids, by which I mean each finger getting double or quadruple loops to really make a super, super thick. Sorry, we're having to remove some comments, obviously. Make a super, super thick braid, right? So there's an exemplar from Estonia, actually from Tallinn, from the 14th century, where it's each loop, each bow, as it were, is actually 4 bows, and this ended up making a really nice thick one. So that is definitely a way that you can make a thicker braid if you have thinner thread or thinner yarn. or thinner floss if you double or triple or quadruple the loops on each finger. But that's a more advanced. You want to make sure you get good with just one loop before you start putzing around with multiple loops on each finger. Yeah. George Washington was a hemp farmer. Yeah, hemp. People forget that hemp was first and foremost a plant made into fabric in Europe, and all over Asia as well. In Korea, traditional historical Korean clothing was often made from hemp. In Europe, hemp tended to be used for practical purposes. There is an extant farsetto from the 1430s in Italy, Pandolfo Malatesta's farsetto, and it's actually lined in a gray hemp. So yeah, or at least it's gray now, and we assume it was always gray. I made the mistake of using silk yarn for finger loop braid.
Oh.
How? Oh, I use silk all the time. So Ocean, did you get blisters from it, or what happened? Yeah, silk makes the shiniest and the prettiest, the most prominent, the most were decorated with silk finger loop braids, which is why finger loop braiding fell under the heading of the silk women, who held who they were parts of the guild of guilds. Sometimes they had their own guild. They took apprentices. It was a very formal level of product of production in the Middle Ages. It was an actual handcraft, and we actually have one extant apprentice contract, at least one extant apprentice contract. I think in the City Archives of London, but don't hold me to that. It is in London somewhere. I just don't remember where. And it is for an apprentice for a silkwoman, and the term of the apprenticeship was 8 years. Yeah. So, but they didn't just do finger loop braiding, right? They weren't spending 8 years mastering just this. There were all sorts of things that counted under the heading of silk women's work. And we see payments to these women in many of the expense accounts. The Scottish expense, the Royal House of Scotland's expense accounts from the 15th century are filled with payments to silk women. So are what few Burgundian expense accounts we still have, right? So yeah, very much a woman's work. And I don't really have evidence of men doing finger loop braiding,
Except for me.
except for my condottiero, right? But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just haven't found the evidence yet, right? Okay, so let me see. This wasn't silk floss. It was probably silk yarn for knitting. Oh, sorry. Oh, I am so sorry. That's wow. Ouch. Okay. Did we miss any other comments while I was talking? Okay.
I think
Still not Amish. Still getting that comment. Still not Amish. Very 15th century Florentine. Dressed to be at home, as it were. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on this two-person braid. Okay, so first off, we're gonna get set up. And when you're doing a two-person braid, nearly always you have mirror setups. What I mean is, what the left person has on their side, on their two hands, the right person has on their two hands, but mirrored, right? And that's just kind of generally the way it goes. So we're still figuring out what will actually work with these cameras, because we wanted to try to give you both angles. So just bear with us. We'll have it better next week if whatever doesn't work this week. Okay. So we have two sets of loops, right? Scoot a little bit towards me, handsome. Yes, scoot a little towards me. Yeah. Okay, so we have two sets of loops each. We have red, and we have red. No, we have green. I swear I'm not red green colorblind. We have green and we have red. And so the way this braid works is we have the green on our what we'll call outside hands. Okay, so we're going to kind of probably refer to inside and outside hands for clarity here. Outside hands means relative to us as a unit. Outside hand is left for me, is right for my condottiero, right? And then we have our inside hands. Okay, so the first thing we do is we set up these loops by separating them out. And the separation process can be painful depending on how you set up your loops. So you might have to untangle them a little bit, and that's okay. Okay, the base nearly always starts a little rough, but that's usually the part that will get stuck in a point or tucked in if you're doing trim or something like that. So don't worry about the base being messy. Okay, so first things first. On our outside hand, we've got the 3 loops on B, C, and D on our lower 3 fingers, right? Okay. And on our right hand, we have the loops actually on the upper 3 fingers on A, B, and C. Right. So we are a mirror of each other. Okay. Scoot a little bit this way.
It'll be fine. We need the room.
Okay. Okay, so unfortunately, to get both camera angles, we had to do live stream together, which unfortunately, YouTube, if you're listening, please let horizontal live stream together be a thing. That would be great for us creators who need 2 camera angles to demonstrate the thing we're doing. Anyway, good morning. Welcome to the live stream. Susan, you managed to join us. Fantastic. Force takes notes to force my boyfriend to help me later. Yeah, I'm not even going to bother dignifying that with an answer. If you'd like to see, I have a whole live stream. I have a whole video series on, or a whole video, several hour presentation on homosexuality in the Middle Ages. You're welcome to check that out if you have a comment, if you have a question. That is not today's subject. Okay, so first thing we're actually going to do is we're going to actually reverse the loops upward from these fingers on the outside hands and downwards from the inside hands. So up 1, up 2, up 3, and then
No.
yes.
The outside hands. This one stays the same.
Oh yes, sorry, just the outside hands. He's right, not the inside hands. Are each of our outside hands correct? Yeah. Okay, so now we have 2 sets of bows in parallel on our hands. I'm just going to. Okay, now we have 2 sets of bows in parallel on our hands, right? Probably we should have put like a white cloth down so that it was over our lap so that it would make it clearer from this angle. Okay. We're gonna put a white linen cloth down on our lap so that will make the downward view less busy, and then you can actually maybe better see what we're doing. Thank God I just have random linen small clothes lying about the room that really need to be repaired. Okay, that should help a little bit. Okay, right. Hopefully let me know if putting the white cloth down made it more visible. Okay, so from here, we are now going to do our first exchange. So the basic premise is that we work separately, and then eventually there's an exchange between our 2 separate sets of hands, right? That is how all 2-person braids work. It's not so complicated that we're literally overworking each other like this all the time. No, we do our own thing, and then at a certain point in the steps, we swap loops between each other to sort of connect the 2 parts that we're working. That's the general premise of a 2-person braid, and there is one 3-person braid, but sadly the instructions didn't actually survive, so that's kind of sad. But it's intimated at the end of the Harley manuscript. So yeah, that's kind of tantalizing, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So right. We just did step 1, which was to reverse our loops up on the outside hand. So now we have 2 sets of parallel loops, A, B, and C on both hands, all of our hands, inside and outside hand. Okay. So now we are actually going to
D takes C reversed.
D takes C reversed. So basically what that means is you grab the bottom of the loop
from the outside.
from the outside to me.
This hand.
Yes. I'm demonstrating. So what that means is you grab the bottom of the loop because that actually causes the loop to twist, right? If I were going to take it straight across, I would just grab it like this. But to reverse it, to make it twist, you grab the bottom of the loop basically, right? Okay. So B takes C reversed. Okay. Now we have 3 green on the outside hand and 1 red, and 2 lonely little loops on the other hand, on our inside hands. Okay, and now we're going to reverse those down. We're going to reverse our inside hands down. Okay. And occasionally you'll want to actually tighten things. Right, okay. So from here, it gets crazy. So from here, we're basically going to go through all of our loops, and I mean all of the loops, to grab the top, to grab A on the outside hand, reversed. Yeah, everything is reversed.
Yep.
Everything is reversed. Yep. Okay, so we go through, and then grab reversed, pull it all the way through, pull it all the way through.
Did you lower them?
I didn't lower them. Now I did.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope. No, it's on the wrong finger.
It's not.
The green should be above the red. See?
Oh, right. Okay, whatever.
There we go.
Okay. Whew. Okay. What clothes are you wearing? The white cloth definitely helps for visibility. Thank you. Historical costumer things, having a million scraps of linen stashed away. Yep, exactly. What clothes are you wearing? We are wearing 15th century Italian clothes from the 1480s, actually. And we are both in our at-home undress state, not wearing a proper overgarment. Yeah, because also it's kind of humid here. And unfortunately, his overgarment is not made of natural fibers, so it doesn't breathe at all. Are the colors red, which you can see, and green or blue? The colors are red and green, although now that you say that, I can see how this might look blue in this light, actually.
Yeah.
I want to turn on the overhead light.
We're stuck now.
Yeah, we're stuck now. We're bound. I've been saying I'm going to make a fake set of hands so that if I want to take a break from finger loop braiding, I can actually put them on the fingers and then come back to it. Because otherwise, if you put the loops down, you're unlikely to ever come back to where they were.
Tommy, turn on the light.
Hey, kitties, do something useful.
No,
Nope.
didn't work.
Okay, that didn't work. Do you have a dog? We do not. We have 3 cats. Well, 4 cats. One is residing elsewhere right now. But yeah, we have cats. We've got lots and lots of cats. Okay, so we now have this situation. Right. Okay. And that basically that big exchange we just did where it went completely through. Where's my finger? Where's my toe when I need it? Where it went. I don't know. Why am I still wearing slippers?
Oh.
This is actually too long for me to even reach with my toe. That says something. So you will need to tighten. For those who don't know what finger loop braiding is, in general, you do need to tighten. And actually, they used to do braids that were so long, and they would have a person who was actually holding a stick to which the braids were affixed, and they would actually beat the braid down as they went along, and if it was too long for the person's reach to actually tighten everything. So that's how really long braids are made. You need 2 people, or 3 in the case of a 2-person braid. Yeah. Okay. Kitty's turn on the light. Yeah. Okay. Great.
No, he's sitting in a box. again
Okay.
right now.
So now we are at the stage where we exchange, right? So we're actually going to exchange. And this is why we liked this one, because the chevron braid actually goes quickly and only has very few steps. There are some braids that have 31 steps. My God, why? Okay. So now we're just going to exchange straight across, and it goes through, right?
As long as we do the same exchange. It just says exchange.
It just says exchange, right? Okay.
This finger.
Oh, you can't pull it off that. You can't pull it off my finger that way.
I was going to pull it the other way.
There.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. So now we have bound the 2 sides that we have started weaving, right? So, and if unfortunately we need a cameraman, damn it, kitties, come and move the camera.
Useful. Usually that's my job.
I swear, kitties, man, are they good for anything? No, not really.
And once we get it down,
Okay.
it starts.
Because what we can see and you sadly can't. Wondering. Okay, so actually here's
to move it.
So here's the question, viewers. Would you prefer the camera to be on the braid as it's forming at the base there, or would you rather have the 2 angles of our fingers? This is something we debated about actually when we were setting up the cameras, and I wasn't certain which was better. So let me know if you would rather have the camera, one of the cameras, on the braid developing, and or want them both on our hands like this. Yeah, the fingers. Yeah, I mean,
I lose there too.
I kind of thought, but
I lost. I was going for the braid developing.
okay, great. Well, now
That's it.
yeah, now that's
That's all
it.
the steps.
Now we pick it up from where we started.
See,
Yep.
we're back to the initial setup.
Oh, except I didn't lower. I need to lower.
No.
Yeah, I need to lower mine on the outside hand. Yes,
How did you not have that lowered to begin with?
I did lower it at some point.
Weird.
Yep. Okay, so now we start again, thankfully. So first thing we do is reverse the outer loops up. Did you already reverse your outer loops?
I just did.
Oh, okay. Outer loops get reversed up. Okay.
Pinky up.
Damn it, I've reversed it, but I didn't move it up the pinky.
I did that too.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So I should tell you that we're actually we didn't practice this in advance. So this is us also interpreting the instructions. So you're getting us interpreting the modern instructions together, and then next week you might get us interpreting the medieval instructions together. So stay tuned for that adventure.
Possibly with a shorter string.
The fingers are better so I can see what you're doing. That's what I thought. I assumed that would be the better thing. Okay. Right. So we have just reversed our loops, and now we're going to pull the inside C to outside D reversed. Yep. And then we reverse the other loops downward of the inside hands downward. Sorry, other loops is absolutely the wrong word. Inside loops downward to C and D, right? Okay, and then we go through everything. We go through all the loops to grab the A on the outside hand, pull it all the way through. Oh, that's why, because I automatically migrated them down. Yep.
Oh, after you
Yep.
pulled.
Yep. It's just what I did. Yep, that's how that happened. Okay, and then we tighten. And normally I would actually use my foot to do this. For me, finger loop braiding ends up being a total body workout. And then we swap.
Where'd your top one go?
This is my top one.
We did it.
Yeah.
Wait, it's not reversed.
Nope, just swapped across. Doesn't even say to go through, it just says exchange. Nope. Okay. So yeah, we can see a chevron-y thing forming at the base here. Okay, so we start by having these offset. Darn it, I did have them offset. Okay. Okay, reverse.
That's because. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we start again by reversing the loops up on the outside hand and reversing them. What?
Not on the inside hand. We keep trying to.
Oh, I keep trying to do that. You're right. It's my fault. Okay, reversing the loops up on the outside hand, and then we pull across, reversed.
Reverse to the.
Yep. Lower these.
Reverse them lowered.
Yeah, reverse them lowered. Reverse the inside hands lowered.
And then the crazy stuff.
And then the crazy stuff. Through everything to grab top A, outside A, and pull it all the way through. No, stop that. This is an automatic thing for me. Just automatically pulling that nonsense up.
And pull everything. Pull all your stuff to the left. No, all of it to the left. There you go. Oh, there
it goes.
tightening.
Now it's tightening. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great.
We exchange again.
Exchange.
Got it.
Okay.
You don't want to drop. And we reverse up.
Reverse up outside hands. My fingers don't want to do that for some reason. Okay. Yeah. And then reverse across. Tighten.
Reverse down.
Yeah.
Did you already reverse down? So they should be on this finger reversed.
Yeah, they were not reversed. Okay, now they are.
Everything across.
Then through all of the loops.
Tommy, no.
Oh boy. No, bad kitty. No, bad kitty. No.
Let's film me entirely.
If something bad happens to the camera, don't worry, we'll fix it. Okay, pull all of the loops.
Oh, there we go. I think we need to.
We need a beater.
Tommy's not being an effective beater.
Wait, hold on. Did we where were we?
I just reversed up on the outside hand. Yours are up. You have automatically migrated them up.
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy, no.
No, bad kitty. Why?
Yeah, actually, you almost tightened up for me.
Why? Oh wow. Do we almost have him trained to tighten the braid?
Yeah.
Great. Kittyerror.exe. Yeah.
It's a cross reversed from C to D.
Wait.
So they should be up.
Yeah.
Then pass
Right.
across.
Yep.
First. Yep. Reverse down.
Reverse down. Tighten. Tighten. Tighten all of them. And then through everything.
Oh, mine is really. Why get that?
Through everything. Right.
weird.
And then
we trade. So here, I'll put it on this finger over. Don't migrate them. Oh.
they're up for some reason. They need to be down. Yeah.
I'll put this on your far finger.
Okay.
And then I'll take this one.
Yeah, that seems much more sensible.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, look at that.
Stop it, fingers. They're trying to do something they're not supposed to do. Okay. Tighten. Tighten. Oh yeah, because we're not getting this very tight. The chevron is huge. I maybe didn't think when I said a little bit longer, I didn't necessarily mean this much longer.
Yeah, I made the strings a little
You
long.
made them really, really, really super long. Okay, great. So we've just reversed up. Did you already reverse up?
I am to the exchange point.
Okay.
Sorry. The fun thing is one person can get ahead of the other one.
I was still trying to until we go all the way through. No, that's why. Stop it. Bad fingers.
Keep trying to.
Bad fingers. There's some habits from other braids I do. Hold on. Hold on. Maybe I can do this. Yeah, this is definitely too long to do without a beater. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to replace the
Did we exchange over?
we did not. I was trying to tighten before we exchanged because
Yeah. Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Cool. This is a process.
On the positive side, at the rate we're not tightening this down, you're gonna get see, that happens all the time. So it is if a loop drops, it's just gonna be an error in your braid. For most braids, that will it'll be buried by the things.
Nobby's watching now.
Oh no, we've got another cat. No, oh gosh darn it. No, get down. Nobby is our string junkie. He chews on my hair. Get down.
Yeah, right. That's working.
Get down. He just fell off. Oh my God. Do you think there were any lost nursery rhymes or songs to teach young ladies the patterns?
That's an interesting.
That's an interesting question. I mean,
they do all sorts of chanting songs.
that is, I actually don't have any evidence of songs as a didactic guide in the Middle Ages. I know that seems to be unfortunately I'm talking now. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, that seems not unfortunately. There's lots of evidence of that later. I haven't found evidence of that anywhere in medieval sources. Which if you know of any, of actual documentable medieval didactic songs that are meant to, teach people patterns or how to do a thing, then absolutely let me know because that would be fascinating. I haven't personally encountered it for anything. No, gosh darn it, kitty. Bad kitty. Why are you like this? Were we at the beginning?
I am at the exchange point. You're at the beginning still because you were talking.
No. Why are you like this? Oh my God. Okay, I'm rotating the loops down. This we hadn't. Okay, note to self. Lock kitties up. No, stop it, fingers. Lock kitties up when it's time for tighten. Okay, and now the exchange. Yeah, the last time we actually did a two-person braid was 2012. So it's been a while for us since we last did a two-person braid. Yep. Okay. Reverse up for the outside hands. But actually go up. What is wrong with you fingers today? Across, reverse down for inside hands. Go through all of the loops. Grab reversed. Wow, this is like combat conditions for finger loop braiding. Why are you like this? Oh, sorry. She just made a cute squeaky noise. Wow, yeah, this might be the biggest chevron, longest, most protracted chevron ever. Okay, starting. Oh, wait, we didn't exchange, did we?
We did not exchange.
Right. Exchange, because it's the exchange that connects. Basically, we're each weaving two halves of the V of the chevron, right? So that final exchange is what actually connects the two V's into one. Now, if you didn't do that exchange, you would actually just make, I don't know, you just make a kind of, you'd make two separated kind of wavy pattern braids, I guess, actually. Yeah. Okay, so we reverse up on the outside hands. Reverse actually move up. Pull across from outside D to inside C, reversed. Reverse down the 2 loops. My fingers keep doing that. Make a corridor going all the way through every single loop. Right? Tighten in all the directions.
That one looks like it actually kind of worked.
Yeah, actually, it's getting a little
yeah.
tighter.
You can actually see the chevron now.
It's actually,
Crazy.
it looks less like a straight line on a vague angle. Okay.
There's another couple
And
comments.
then we swap. Okay, a couple more comments. Adorable Nobby enters. Hi, Kitty. Is this an Old English custom? Very clever. This is definitely a medieval Europe, actually. So finger loop braiding is not just Europe, but we have examples of it in medieval Korea and medieval Japan. I actually have a fantastic 15th century Japanese depiction of a woman finger loop braiding. And so this is an ancient custom that seems to maybe have been spanned Asia and Europe, and it dates back to to ancient times. As I said at the beginning of the live stream, we actually have examples in the Hallstatt mines in Austria from the 3rd, 4th century BC of extant finger loop braiding pieces. Yeah. So this is definitely a very old practice, and it continues until I think the last finger loop braiding manual I know of is the 19th century, or manual that actually includes it actively is the 19th or even early 20th century. It was still being practiced. And now it's being reconstructed from medieval sources like today. So this one specifically dates to probably at least the 1420s, but maybe earlier. Okay, we're
I'm at the exchange already.
I've been talking. It's what happens when people ask me questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
go.
Gosh darn it, why? Fingers, why? I know that. Okay. Make a corridor. Go all the way through, but reverse it.
Nice thing is you can always tell who's at which stage because the colors have to match.
Yep. With a 2-person braid, your colors will always be mirrors of each other, so you can tell if someone has to keep going. Of course, you have to remember who's further along. Okay.
She's lazily sitting here batting at my elbow.
Great.
Yes, you're cute.
Tighten. Once you exchange, definitely tighten. Total body experience finger loop braiding can be. Okay, so once again, we're at the beginning. We start by reversing the outside loops up. Up, fingers up. Gosh darn it. Reach across, grab inside C to outside D. Reverse inside loops down.
That
And
is my
tighten.
sleeve.
Tighten in all directions.
There we go. I think that's the best one. Is when
Yeah,
we both
yeah,
pull from the
Yeah,
side.
I think so.
Ooh,
Sorry, maybe a little too vigorous.
I put a 50-pound weight on
Okay,
you for that.
so let's go ahead and now we go through all the loops, right? All of the loops. Grab reversed A outside. Good enough. Okay. Pull and tighten, and then we exchange. Top inside loop A. Fingers automatically migrating up at all times. Tighten. Okay, once again, outside loops reverse upwards. Actually, make them go upwards this time. D grabs bottom of C, inside hand reversed. Reverse down the inside loops. Make them go down. Tighten.
Yeah.
Tighten. And then go through all the loops to A outside reversed. Pull back. Don't migrate anything. I can tell some old habits from the braids I normally do are just automatic almost. Swap top inside loop A and then tighten. Okay. Reverse outside hand up. All loops. Up. All loops. Contessa. Reversed C inside to outside. Reverse down inside loops. Tighten. Tighten. And then go through all your loops. Grab reversed A. Pull back through. Don't migrate anything. Tighten and then swap. And we're using our finger A outside to swap. for the swap because it's free, right? Finger A is your index finger. On the outside hand, we're using that for the exchange. Let me redistribute my small clothes on my lap so it's more clear.
And honestly, once you get the pattern down, like she's talking about it, but by the time she finishes saying the first instruction, I've done the next 5.
Yeah. It goes. I'm trying to continue to instruct you through it. It can go real fast. Now let me just go to the comments. I can imagine some tailor messing up and going, "Dang it," and calling his wife to help him make braids to cover up his mistakes. Yes, embroidery as a faux pas cover. Yeah, absolutely. What is your style of dress from originally? I am wearing. This is from 1470s to 1490s Florence, and my condottiero is wearing 1450s to 1480s Florence, but he's just wearing the under thing. So yeah, this is 15th century Italy.
And Nobby's just wearing her fur.
Oh, Thomas, I just saw you answered that. Thank you for answering that. Appreciate it, everyone, for chiming in when I'm, bound up literally by string. Okay, so cool. Did one of you?
Yes.
Did she really?
Yeah. She's very proud of it too, I can tell.
Nabi just passed very malodorous gas, and she's very proud of herself.
Now she's leaving us.
What are your SC names? I am Judith de Northumbria, Countess and Master of the Order of the Laurel, and this is Stefano Francesco di Genoa, Lord and Condottiero. Okay, darn it, I think I started reversing stuff. Okay, reverse your loops up. Actually, go up. Grab inside reversed C to outside D. Reverse down your inside loops. Create a corridor. Grab reversed A from outside hand. Pull through.
And that reverse is very important. If you don't do it, it doesn't tie it together.
Keep migrating these up.
Well, on the inside hand, they should be all the way at the
Oh,
top.
you're right. They should be. Okay. Tighten. Tighten.
Okay.
Okay. Swap. Tighten. Tighten. Okay. Reverse outside loops up. Grab up. Grab reversed C to outside D. Reverse inside loops down. Create a corridor and go through every single loop, grabbing A outside reversed. Pull back. Tighten. Tighten. And then swap.
Let's just do one where we just go through.
Okay, so now we're just going to work through. I'm going to check one more thing on the comments. I thought it was Dutch or English. I was completely wrong. Yeah, I don't imagine Dutch or English styles would have been far too similar. Actually, Dutch and English styles in this era are very dissimilar. The Italies by this point had developed a completely separate style of clothing, so they're no longer looking anything like the Northern European counterparts. The earlier part of the 15th century, there's still some pretty severe overlaps in fashion styles, but by the second half of the 15th century, the Italies plural have gone a completely different sartorial direction than the rest of Northern Europe. So yeah, pretty different actually. And you can check this out. I've got a getting dressed video that is just this style of clothing, 2 of them actually, from the late skin out with explanations, one and one without explanations. And then I've got a video on the similar clothes from the same era, but in burgundy, where you can definitely see completely different, nothing alike. So if you look up getting dressed on my channel under videos, it should probably be there. I don't remember what the current title is because I keep playing with the titles to try to trigger the algorithm. Yeah, but I've got full getting dressed videos in both Florentine clothing from the 1480s and Burgundian clothing from the 1470s, so you can see the difference.
Okay.
Yeah. Where is your video on Irish women's clothing coming? Oh, when is my video on Irish women's clothing coming? Well, first I have to film and edit the one on Irish men's clothing within the Pale, which I've got the script. It's all finished. It's like 30 pages long. And then, so I would say June. I would say June is probably when Irish women's clothing is coming. Sorry, there's just so much I have on my plate and finished videos take a lot of work. Each finished video, each 10 to 15 minute finished video that I produce probably represents an hour, 100 hours of work easily. Yeah. Would the same be true for men's clothing back in? Yes. So men's clothing is by the second half of the 15th century, you can definitely tell regional differences. There's a great frontispiece actually from one of King René's books. He was a bibliophile and commissioned many books, but one of his books actually shows him, and he's got 3 courtiers with him. He has a Burgundian courtier, he has an Italian courtier, and he's a German courtier. And while there are slightly more similarities, there's similarities in layers, you can easily tell the difference between each of them without even needing to guess. So yeah, especially by the mid 15th century moving forward, fashions are no longer just sort of a question of regional variations. They're starting to really develop different shapes and different silhouettes. Yeah. Okay, where the hell were we?
You're at the very beginning.
I'm at the very beginning. Okay, right. Okay.
First up,
Oh, so you kept moving without me.
I did. You didn't move up.
Don't.
There's a cross reverse step. Reverse.
So apparently it's not as easy to teach a finger loop braid. No.
No, don't move those.
Yeah, I know. Don't move those. And talk and answer questions at the same time. This is the first time doing this. So there's definitely been some lessons learned.
Well, because when we do this, like the amount of time it takes for me to finish this to go all the way to the point where we're going to exchange, I'm there. I'm ready to exchange.
Trying to see if, oh yeah, I can do it one finger. Okay.
Yeah, it's a skill I have. I have very nimble fingers.
Okay, yeah, my condottiero is very good at pretty much any kind of braid, I have to say. Literally all kinds of braids. It's literally the longest chevron ever. Oh, we're doing something wrong.
No, you're doing something wrong. My
Okay.
side's perfect.
Oh, whatever. Okay. Reverse up. Cross. Reverse. Nope. Just gets twisted around my finger. I was hoping I could do it. Okay. Reverse or exchange across. Okay. Moving up.
For some reason I can't do it one-handed on my right hand. But my left hand I can do the reversal.
I'll have to practice that one-fingered reversal thing. Yeah. Okay. Let's check. Comments? Questions? Thank you. That's okay. I'll keep an eye out for it. So glad I procrastinated making medieval pottage to watch this, learning so much. You're very talented. Oh, well, thank you, everyone. And also, I'm glad you are learning so much. Okay. Instead of just watching me mostly flail around. Okay, reverse up. Nope, it's not letting me do it.
So grab. So
What are you doing to do the one
like
thing?
that.
Okay.
You see? So yep.
Yeah, okay,
Not
got
reverse.
it. Yeah, got it. Okay. Figured out how to do a one-fingered reversal. Saves a lot of time. Exchange across. Okay, fantastic. Reverse up, outside hand.
I can't seem to get that one.
So finger loop braiding is, nope, it's not. Let's see. Nope. What did I do?
From the inside.
There we go. Yep. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Finger loop braiding will really give you very dexterous fingers, and you'll actually start developing really fine muscles, which is interesting. And I don't mean bulky muscles, I mean sexy muscles.
I didn't know I had sexy muscles in the hand.
You know, like yoga strength muscles.
Bone strength.
Bone strength. Okay, so I'm going to try to reverse these up with one finger. Let's see if I can do that. One finger. Nope. How are you reversing up one finger?
On this side, I'm not.
Mhm.
I'm using both hands to do that side. Because I can't seem to get it to pop off my other fingers.
Yeah, I'll have to practice that maybe when no one's watching so it's not embarrassing. Okay, and then reverse down, create a corridor, go through everything. Tighten. Punch your fellow. So in the original manuscripts, it's interesting. The language is very gender neutral. It refers to your fellows, right? So there's no, your ladies or men or anything. It's just very gender neutral, which I'm pretty certain that's on that could be an indication that this, was a skill that not just that was not only the purview of women, shall we say.
I think during the winter hours, when you've got far less to do, maybe people sat around and just did this.
I mean, I know that in Scotland, for instance, men used to knit, especially shepherds when they were out there with their things. And I don't mean in the Middle Ages necessarily. I'm thinking more 18th centuries when I have the documentation for that. But yeah. So yeah, they refer to your fellow in the sources. Darn it. This one finger reversal thing down. Right. Exchange. Reverse up, reverse up, reverse up, grab across, reverse down, create a corridor, go through, grab reversed, pull out, tighten, exchange.
And you pull too hard.
Oh, shoot. Here, grab that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, do we want to try to reset?
It's still on you.
It's still on me vaguely. Okay. It's now showing more of the air conditioner.
What is?
Let me see. Bidding you a good night from England. Oh, thank you for joining. I hope you come back. What kitties, when kitties fart proudly, coming to illuminated manuscripts near you in 1488. So true. Okay, reverse up, reverse up, reverse up. Reverse. Why is this being so challenging? Reverse down, go through, grab everything, swap across, and repeat. So once you get this down, it can be very, very relaxing. Sort of very Zen-like, shall we say. Reverse down, reverse down.
When I make points for my armor, I watch TV while I do it.
Yeah, but you really do just fall into a
What do you do?
I don't know. I was thinking again about that stupid trying to get it to reverse without me having to actually, move my fingers or something. Okay. Yeah. So interesting note in the household accounts, the Howard account specifically, I'm thinking of. They actually talk about the orders for points and for arming points. So it's very clear there was a difference between regular points, meaning laces with shapes on them, and arming points. Right. So there is actually an instructions for 2 multi-layer braids, one that's 2 layers, 2 tubes basically, and one that's 3 layers. And I suspect that those braids were actually meant to be arming points, because for arming points, you definitely want to have really strong laces that if one layer starts to fray, you'll still have more, because arming points are literally holding your armor onto your body. Right. So that is a pretty key function. And that's like literally a life essential function. So you don't want those points coming undone in the midst of battle, for instance. So I'm pretty certain that I think I definitely like to try that at some point, soonish, actually. The multi-layer ones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The multi-layer ones are really interesting because they actually start with a finished 5-loop braid, 5-bow braid. And then you start that as the core, and then you two working together, you and your fellow, as it's referred to in the original language, then work, basically work around that core, weaving a basket around it, a 2-layer basket around it. in essence, basket of silk. And the points that I find for either arming, I've actually found silk points mentioned specifically for arming points. Silk is, in fact, contrary to popular belief, silk is a very strong material. It can be. So there's no reason that you wouldn't necessarily want to make your points, your arming points out of silk. And they would probably be waxed. We have some extant ones that actually still have wax left in them. So, right, swap. That still have wax left in them. I don't think I was at the swapping point.
Yeah, you were. You have the right colors.
Yeah, but my fingers, my loops are here.
You keep migrating them.
Yeah, sorry. This is what happens when I talk about stuff when I haven't quite got this braid down. Anyway, there's extant laces, as they're called, with wax still in them. So we know that they impregnated them with beeswax, and that would absolutely make sense because beeswax will prevent them from fraying. And let me tell you, points, whether it's for your clothing or for your arming garments and your armor, they're going to fray. It's just going to happen. So waxing them actually makes sense, especially for armor. And the beeswax will not come off on your clothing, so you don't have to worry about that so much. And it will not stain your clothing, even if it does. You can just kind of wipe it off if you get some beeswax on your clothing. You'd have to do more than that to actually have it impregnate your clothing, so to say. Oh, it's starting to look more chevron-like. Sort of. There's something I'm doing wrong regularly.
Yeah. Well, I think I know what it is.
Oh, okay.
Not that you're necessarily doing something wrong, but when we're reversing the loops, the key to all these braids is absolute consistency. And I think it's actually me. When I flip these, I'm flipping these the wrong direction to reverse them. I may need to flip them the other way.
Right. Yeah. So here's the thing about finger loop braiding. When they say reverse the loop, for instance, it doesn't matter if you reverse it, one way or the other way, if you twist it one way or the other way. But what is key, what seems to matter in a lot of the patterns, is that you always reverse all of them the same direction. Right. And that you don't sometimes reverse it to the left or sometimes reverse it to the right. You always reverse it the same way. And we might not have been paying so close attention to that while we've been having these combat finger loop braiding conditions of live stream and kitties and all the things. Because now we have a kitty who wants to join us. Come on, Teeny. It's okay, baby. Come on. Come on. You can do it. You can fit. Come on. Come on. He doesn't think he can fit. There you go. Good baby. Okay. Let's see. Would this be a courting activity like bundling in 18th century America? No, I have zero evidence of that. I have
too much content here.
I have zero evidence of finger loop braiding being a dating team building experience.
This is what you do when you want two people to divorce.
Crap, I don't know where I was.
You're at the beginning. See.
Did I reverse it?
Maybe. You have a tendency to just move your fingers.
Yeah, I know. It sucks. Well, I'm just going to re-reverse that. Well, we'll see. It doesn't matter. This is a test braid anyway. I was thinking of actually offering this as a freebie by
nobody wants
encouraging people to leave a comment, and then I do a drawing of the people who left comments once the video publishes. But I don't know. This might be too ugly to give to anyone.
We're going to hide this in a jar and bury it in a field.
Okay, reverse down. Reverse down. Okay, then we go through.
Because watching you reverse, I think I'm reversing a different way.
What the hell? I definitely reversed it too many times. Look at that nonsense. Okay. Okay. Tighten. Reverse up. I'm spinning.
Try and go the other way.
So unfortunately, that kind of means also both when it's two people working, you all have to reverse in the same direction, I think. Otherwise, you get kind of inconsistency. So it's looking more chevron-like anyway.
We'll see if that just actually worked.
Okay, swap. Swappy swap. Okay, reverse up, reverse up, grab across. Reverse down, corridor, grab, don't migrate.
She was ahead of me. No.
I've been doing this for longer than you have. Okay.
What am I doing?
Still trying to figure out if I can figure out how to make this reverse upwards without, oh, maybe this way? Oh, that way.
Yeah, but now you've reversed your how you reverse.
You're right. I'll just have to keep that in mind for next time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Okay.
this is a learning one anyway.
Yeah, this is a learning one anyway. It's made from cheap. This is not silk. Never, ever, ever do your first ever version of a braid on silk. That's just silly.
There's a long comment.
Okay, hold on a minute. Let me finish this pattern and do the swap, and then I will get to that comment.
And we're at the beginning.
Okay, and we're at the beginning. Okay. When kitties piss proudly, the sequel to the hit of the 1488 illuminated manuscript will come to illuminated manuscripts in 1489 and the Gutenberg version in 1490. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of kitties pissing proudly, I just found a piece of really fine white linen in our back room on which the kitties had proudly pissed. We already swapped, right?
Yeah, we're at the beginning.
Right. Yeah. When kitties piss proudly, a Hallmark special. Okay. Yeah, I think if we redo this and maybe make sure we're all reversing the same way, we'll definitely get a different look.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, you can't keep going. We're making separate braids. We're not making separate braids, rather. It's more to the point. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Neat. By the way, let me know if you can hear something loud kind of rushing in the background. The kitty's water fountain has gotten really low on water because they just went and drank it dry. That's what they do.
Cats are very good water drinkers.
Cats are very good water drinkers because we have a nice porcelain fountain for them. And that made Jamie go and drink more water.
Not loud enough for them? Wait.
I need to go through. I haven't done that yet. Yeah. Remember, I'm conversing with our people.
Take it.
I'm trying. I was trying to. You wouldn't let me have it.
See? Leads to divorce.
Okay.
You made me drop mine.
I didn't make you do anything. You weren't holding on to it properly. Okay. Cross. Migrate down, through, cross.
Now it's a race, I see.
Is it? Swap. Unfortunately, it can only be a race for so far because you can only work to a certain point, as my poor condottiero has often found when I have started holding forth about various topics. Oh, it's looking better. It's looking less bad. Looks more chevron-y and less like a, I don't know, Picasso impression of a finger loop braid. Okay, so here's the question. Do you think labeling our fingers would have helped in this angle? It's because we're not as, necessarily super close as we would be in like, say, the video. So would having A, B, C, and D on our fingers be useful or not for everyone? Yeah. Let us know. We plan on doing more of these live stream finger loop braiding sessions. And so we're, trying to figure out what works actually in this particular format, which is obviously different than when you can, move a camera around and all of that sort of stuff for a recording. Yeah, we need to swap braid.
Yep. You're going to teach them the super secret way of ending.
The super secret way of ending?
Yeah. Any finger loop.
Oh, you mean the braid?
Yeah.
Or we just braid it? Yeah.
Or we just
Oh, that way after you braid it and then drop it. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone always asks, well, how do you end it so it doesn't come undone? Well, it's not really going to come undone, honestly. Unless you're using silk and it's so slick. The other thing about finger loop braids in general, you'll notice, is that there is an issue maintaining an even tension throughout across the braid. You'll notice that it always gets significantly more tight at the end than it does at the beginning. And I think this might be mitigated if you have a person actually doing the beading for you. But ultimately, it doesn't necessarily matter because you can't necessarily visually see, because you're not going to have the two ends next to each other, right? So the gradual difference in the size of the pattern is not necessarily going to be visually obvious and therefore offensive. Right. Sorry, I was holding forth about the way I lost. Okay. Swap.
The closer we get to the end, the closer our hands are.
Yeah. If you start looking for visual evidence of this, there's actually quite a few depictions of only women and Jesus and baby Jesus fingerloop braided, according to medieval artists.
Everybody's got to have a hobby.
So yeah, there's lots of depictions, several lots. I mean, like at least four that I can think of depictions of the Virgin Mary fingerloop braiding with Jesus, and Jesus is actually helping her, you know, as little genius homunculuses who are also God incarnate often do. So yeah, if you want to see images of you're most likely to see images, depictions of women fingerloop braiding if baby Jesus is involved, specifically homunculus Jesus. And for those who don't know what the homunculus is, this is the reason that you have ugly medieval and ugly Renaissance babies who are Jesus, because the idea that artists were trying to convey was that he was born as God incarnate and therefore had all the knowledge and wisdom of an old man. And so that's why, you know, baby Jesus is often depicted with a receding hairline. Stay tuned for this and more fascinating information about interpreting medieval and Renaissance art in my upcoming series on why art is dangerous for fashion interpretation.
Oh, this braid really got bad here somehow.
Oh, yeah.
We should almost drop it. At
No,
this
no,
point.
we're going to keep going. Probably useful for the next one. And can you add camera 3 or is that too much? YouTube, unfortunately, yeah, YouTube will not. That would be great if we could do a triple. That would be really awesome. What are we? Oh, yeah.
No, okay.
What do you want me to do?
So now you can show them the actual
Okay,
braid.
so I'm going to show you, no judgment, people. I've been talking, we've had kitties, right? So this is definitely not even anything like my best braid or even any of my bad braids. Okay, hold on. Okay, so trying to figure out.
Might be too dark.
Might be too dark.
Do
Yeah,
I
I need
turn the
to
light
go
on?
turn the light on. Let me go turn the light on, everyone. My condottiere in the meanwhile will fill in my screen. So you can actually see him.
It's me.
Yeah, that's going to help a lot.
Oh, it's even uglier in the light.
The light didn't help. It made it worse. There we go. There's some chevrons. Here's some chevrons. Right. So yeah, this is super thick yarn, and we picked this on, I think it's cotton actually.
Yeah.
We picked this on purpose so that you could see it clearly on our fingers because fine thread does not show it all in the camera, or basically not.
Found that out the hard way.
Yeah. So this is, and then you can see what I meant by, oh my God, it's so loose. It was actually, the chevrons are actually pretty clear here. They're actually, we did better at the beginning. Something went wrong somewhere.
Well, we started.
But this, it's so loose because we couldn't tighten it because we were bound to our seats. Normally I would use my toes to do this tightening stuff. Yeah.
But to be fair, it doesn't have to be tight if you're using it for decoration and it's going to be sewn down.
Well, what you want is consistent, right?
Yeah.
However tight it is, ideally you try to keep it as consistent as possible. You don't want it so loose though that it's practically like, no, this is not good for decoration, handsome. This is too loose.
You could almost do this to one person.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. No, you really couldn't. Okay, ready to try to finish this thing out, this poor thing. It's not that bad. Oh, Ocean, you're so kind.
So
Okay, hold on a minute. Let me replace my lap cover for clarity.
right hand first.
You mean my,
Right
yes.
hand.
Okay, right hand.
And
Okay, but I think, where were we? Were we at the beginning again?
oh
Who knows?
shoot.
Who knows where we were? Okay.
We're at the exchange.
Are we? Sure.
Maybe.
Maybe we were at the exchange. Who knows? This is what I mean by it can be tricky if you don't really pay close attention to where you are when you stop. Picking it up is not exactly that easy. Yeah, Taylor Ryan. Yeah, that looks like poop. No, Taylor, I agree with you. It's maybe was that why Ocean said not that bad? Yeah, we've definitely done better. Okay.
I'm at the exchange.
I've
You've been talking.
I've been talking. No. Through reverse. Yeah, okay. Go up. Yeah, maybe we should have done it all red, then you couldn't see the lack of clear chevrons.
Look, it's all red. It's perfect.
And once you do enough finger loop braids, the logic behind it, the physics behind it will start to make sense. If it doesn't right now, it will eventually. It's and that's how I think, I'm pretty certain that's how people started inventing new braids. They understood the mechanisms, like ladies would start coming up with new braids. And it might be why Catherine Tolemach's Book of Secrets has more than the Harleian manuscript. Because, you know, she or someone close to her figured out how to do different things. It could also be that they just dropped a loop and then, like the pattern that made. I do believe in the accident theory of innovation, 100%. And have any of you, do any of you remember my story about my apocryphal origin story for modern pretzels, like the soft pretzels?
That's what I was just thinking of.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, like the nice soft pretzels like you get in Germany, and pretzel rolls and whatnot, Laugenbrötchen as they're called in German. They're made that way, and Lauge means lie, right? They're made that way by coating the bread in lye, either dipping them in lye or painting a lye solution on, right? So that is what creates that brown layer and that flavor and that chewiness. So my theory is, like, who would think to do that? What was lye in the Middle Ages? Historically, lye was a cleaning solution, right? And it was used in laundering and cleansing. So it was not something that anyone would think we should use this to make food.
Definitely use that on our food.
So my theory is that the baker's apprentice was cleaning, sweeping up, bustling around the shop, doing something or another, and he accidentally knocked a tray of bread that was proofing into his bucket of lye as he was cleaning, right? As he was washing the floors or something. Medieval kitchens were very clean, by the way. They cleaned them heavily. And he knocked the whole tray of rolls or bread loaves into the bucket of lye. And he knew that if the baker found out that he had ruined a whole tray of bread, his ass would be grass. And I do mean that in a literal sense. Corporal punishment, very much a thing in the medieval world. So he just pulled the bread loaves out of the lye solution, put them back on their tray, and went about cleaning. And the baker baked them after they hit the appropriate time of proofing, and out they came with this amazing brown crust. And the baker just kind of, wondered what had happened, but things happen weirdly sometimes, often in the chemistry lab that is a kitchen. And so they tasted it, and it tasted delicious. And so the apprentice copped to his mistake, and thus Laugebrötchen pretzel were born as we know them. That's my theory as to how someone thought to dip an edible thing in a very not edible thing. So we're now getting to the point. People often ask me, well, when do you stop the braid? You stop the braid when your fingers, me anyway, this is when I stop it, when my fingers can no longer fit in the loops. Now, my fingers are daintier than my condottiero's fingers. So we might have to stop when his fingers no longer fit in the loops.
Just getting close.
Yeah, if you have any questions, Code Commando, Mr. Code Commando, if you have any questions, please do let me know. Yeah, we are probably getting close to to the point where our fingers will no longer fit.
Never give up.
Yep. And this is the point at which you will probably start developing blisters. If you're going to develop blisters, it's in this final stage when it's going to happen. And yes, I have developed blisters. Also, if you do enough finger loop braiding, you will develop the calluses you need for it not to matter.
I got that one.
We're trying to push the envelope here and see just how far we can make this work. I don't think I can do the finger flip thing so much anymore though.
Yeah, so sure I can.
Okay. So I can see what's happening here. We're connecting these in a strange spot. Like the connection is happening here instead of at the point, which is weird.
Look at me.
Well, look, my side looks good.
I'm done. My fingers don't fit in it anymore.
Your side got really messy. What happened to your side?
Oh, that's weird. I have no idea.
Yeah, you must have had something off. Mine actually got nice
I
and
did
clean.
drop a
Oh,
thread. I thought I got it back right.
look, mine is looking pretty good. What happened to you there, Mr. I'm
No.
a perfect finger loop braider? Okay. Okay, let me see if I can show you. I'm gonna take it out of
I
the.
can snip it off the.
Okay, so here we have, you can see, I finally figured it out towards the end. My half is looking pretty decent, or my quarter. I don't know what happened in the other half, but yeah, you can see that there's definitely a learning curve here. We went from interpretive braiding
Very loose. Jeez.
to pattern braiding. Well, yeah, that's what happens when we were literally couldn't tighten it. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like we were doing things. Look at this. Look at how your chevron, mine is at a steeper angle than yours is. That's interesting. Yep. Okay. Well, we'll definitely redo it and do it better. Okay. Questions about the chevron of 12 bows, as it is called in the original.
Like 5 steps. Not complicated, but whew, yeah, you reversed wrong once.
Okay. Sorry. Let me get back to the questions. Deine Aussprache ist wahnsinnig gut. Ja, also ich wohnte 12 Jahre lang in Deutschland, habe auch mal an der Uni Heidelberg studiert, war mal Übersetzerin bei einer deutschen Firma. Von daher, ja, kann ich eigentlich ganz gut Deutsch. Right. So, let's see. Look at the progress step. Where did the braid go? We're not going to hide it. We're not going to hide it like shameful people. Where did you do with it? You mentioned that there would usually be a third person involved, right? What would their role be? Okay, right. So that would be the beater. So let me just put this on my lap for clarity. Okay, so if you have a 2-person braid, then ideally you'll have a third person if it's really long. Because that third person is going to beat the braid down, is going to beat the pattern down. And this is what happens when you don't have a beater on a long braid. See how loose that is? Right? So it's that loose because we weren't able to get our arms tight enough. Sorry about that. My conductor is trying to make you motion sick. You know, is that the idea is that with your arms, you should be able to tighten it. And that's why if you're braiding alone, only make the bows as long as you can use your foot to tighten it. Unfortunately, we were sitting, so I couldn't get my foot up there to actually do the thing. So the third person's role would be literally to beat the pattern down so that it gets tight, right? That is their role. And also, if you want to make a really long finger loop braid, then the third person, if it's a 2-person braid, the third person will sit there with a stick. And you can actually see this. If you look at the picture I used for the thumbnail on this, you can actually see 2 women finger loop braiding. One is holding a stick with the end of the finger loop braid with the progress wrapped around it. And so I'm pretty certain they started with a really long braid, right? And then the person who's holding the stick just kind of wraps it as it's done around that stick. And then she's there, she or he, if you're working with a male fellow, is actually beating the pattern down so that it's nice and tight. And so then that takes some of the onus away from the person with the loops on trying to manage the loops and also manage the tightness. And that would also therefore allow the pattern to be a more even width, because your beater will probably be better able to maintain even tension on how much the pattern is beaten back.
Yep.
Is my theory. We've never actually done this, and we should maybe do this also as a live stream where we try, or we'll record it. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what we can do where we record or we live stream us experimenting with some poor bastard holding the stick and beating the pattern down while the other person is working the loops. Let me see. It reminds me of a hand fasting cord. I actually know nothing about hand fasting cords. If you can share more information about that, is that a recent thing, or what part of the world is that? Like two people each working on opposite end. I've taught myself tablet weaving. So Vicky, did you see my condottiero and I working together here? So the beater actually, the beater's only job is to just make the pattern tighter at one end. They're not manipulating the loops and the bows in any way. That's all. That is all a function of the person who has the bows around their fingers. All the beater is doing, the person holding the stick, is just pressing the woven bits down, the braided bits down, so that they're an appropriate amount of tightness, so that you have a pattern that looks like a pattern. See, pattern that looks like a pattern instead of, well, whatever this is.
I swear I can do a braid.
Why do I just think of baby Jesus holding a stick off in the back while Mary's more like, more attention, please? Yeah. Well, but remember, Jesus is the homunculus, and so he knows automatically exactly what to do. Mary will not have to provide him with any instruction whatsoever. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Vicky, you just got here. Okay, yeah, Vicky, if you rewatch the live stream from the beginning, you can see the whole process. So there were actually two of us working, but ideally there would have been a third beating the pattern down. Yeah. Because there were the two of us working together side by side. So we actually had 4 sets of loops, each of us with, a set on each hand.
6 sets each.
No, I mean 4 sets. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah. 4 hands. All 4 hands.
Yeah, all 4 hands. Yeah.
All 4 hands are in use.
And next week, I think we're going to be actually we're going to try out the chevron. It's the original, the chevron of 16 loops, 16 bows, as it's called. So remember, Fingerloop braiding is a modern name. They didn't call it Fingerloop braiding in period. They referred to it as laces, right? They called them laces. And I'm pretty certain that etymologically, the word lace in English probably then got, what's the word I'm looking, subverted? Co-opted to apply to what we modernly call lace, because the original forms of lace were relatively basic and simple, and probably looked in many cases like the things you could actually do with fingerloop braiding. And so they just probably, my theory, I haven't looked this up, so someone knows better about the etymology of the word lace and how it became to be applied to bobbin lace, let me know. But my theory is that the kinds of things, because especially if you look at this loose version, right? Sorry, trying to figure out where the camera, there it is. If we look at this loose version, then you can really almost see how this could be a form of what we call lace modernly. I use cards with 4 holes and turn the cards. Yeah. I also do tablet weaving. I haven't done it in a while, but yeah. Tablet weaving is also, I really enjoyed, something I enjoy doing while either listening to someone read to me or someone entertain me in a visual manner. Let me see. Hand fasting is Oh, okay. So you're talking about the Celtic and Norse versions of the woven cords wrapped around the entrained wrists. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So we know for certain there are extant examples from the first millennium in various Norse parts of the world with fingerloop braiding. There's actually some very, very well preserved garments with fingerloop braids that look almost exactly like this, actually, this one I'm holding right now, that have fingerloop braiding around as trim around the openings of the neckline, and there's a pair of trousers with them around the bottom of the trousers. and up the opening and around the cuffs of the tunic, and in particular, Skodaheim. My Swedish pronunciation is terrible. Thomas, if you're there, I think it's Skodaheim, which I'm confident is pronounced something weird like Shodahem. SKO with some diacritic marking over it, DEHEIM, I think. I haven't looked at that garment in a year or two, but or maybe it's been a couple of months actually since I last looked at it. So we know for certain that they had finger loop braiding, extant finger loop braiding, laces, as it were, in the first millennium in the Norse parts of the world. And there are some extant examples from Ireland as well. So that kind of just demonstrates the universality of this braid. I have extant pieces from everywhere in Europe, from Spain, from Portugal, modern day speaking, from the Italies, France, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Korea, Japan, all of the Isles, right? All of Scandinavia has, we have extant examples of these across thousands of years. So this is a time-honored tradition and one that dates back really, really far. Let me see. I see interesting. I made a chevron by turning the cards forwards or backwards. Yes, you can exactly do that. The nice thing about finger loop braiding is that it's equipment free, right? There's and the setup goes really fast. It definitely goes faster than setting up tablets. And so with finger loop braiding, you can absolutely, with the one person braids, and there are at least 21 person braids in the original instructions, you can absolutely do it all by yourself with no equipment. And in fact, you can use your toe. You don't even need a piece of furniture. You could actually affix, you can't see my toe. Where's my toe? Right. Sorry, realize where the toe camera is. You could actually affix it to your toe, right? And then work from there, work like that. And I've seen people do that at events, in fact, at medievalist events.
And they do it in Korea for the horse.
Oh, right. Yeah. So, and in Korea, we just found out. So, for those of you who are into historic Korean fashion, the mangon, the band that goes around the men's hair to keep the top knots nice and neat, the weaving process for the horsehair part of that, the traditional weavers who are doing this in Jeju-do actually attach, they don't use tablets, they have a rigid needle, but they attach it to their toes, and the band is only about, I don't know, 4 centimeters wide, roughly 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. And they actually do it to fix it to their toe the way a lot of finger loop braiders in the modern term will affix the bows to their toes so that they don't need a piece of furniture or something. And therefore can also maybe, maintain better tension or whatever. I disappeared. My phone died while I was in the store buying more turmeric for my dye experiments. Oh, turmeric is a dye stuff. Yeah. Food. Yeah, turmeric is really good at staining pretty much anything. So turmeric should be very good at creating a yellow or certain. I do that to make braided pieces for my hair, Vicky. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this is a condrake called a condrake, and I'm going to be making a tutorial video on this, and it's really cool because you basically make this piping. Now again, for the sample piece I used really big yarn, but when you do this with like a fine silk, it makes this gorgeous piping that looks good on everything and also makes good decoration for purses or purse strings, around necklines, around sleeve openings and whatnot. Yeah, so I picked 2 obnoxious colors specifically so that it would be visible, but you don't have to pick the worst shade of yellow with an okay shade of green. You could pick something better, or no colors at all. You just have the beautiful sheen of the pattern, because when this is silk, this is not silk. This is like some horrible synthetic whatever. But when it's silk, it shines beautifully. It really does. Yeah. Let me see. It was also used by Shaolin monks to make orange. Oh, turmeric. Yeah, absolutely. That shade of orange, I could see that coming from turmeric, considering how often I've dyed my skin yellow and orange with turmeric. Yeah. Let me see. Swedish adopted it. Let me see. The O umlaut is originally a German letter. Swedish adopted it, while Danish and Norwegian used the slashed O instead, with the sound value in English, like sir. Really? Okay, so like okay, I get that. Right. So it's almost the same as what it is in German then. Okay, got it. Yep. Cracking. So Skudaheim. Shodahem? How's that word pronounced in Swedish? Help me, Thomas. You're my only hope. Stella, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, let us know. I think we might are you setting up another braid?
I was thinking about doing the green dorge.
Well, we should do another two. Maybe we should do the chevron, the 2-person chevron again and see if we can do it better. Like, I don't even know what's going on here. This is fascinating. Like my side, this was my side. I just like to point out the perfect side at the end, mind you, is my side. And something interesting. I wish, I mean, it's what my condottiero was doing isn't bad. It's interesting, but unfortunately, I don't think we can replicate it because we don't know how it was achieved.
It has to have been the specific manner of.
Yeah. I think maybe one of your loops must have gotten. Anyway, but you can see if you imagine this doubled, that's how the whole thing would look. The chevrons would look like that. Yeah. Now for the end, people ask how to finish it, and you cut this before we got a chance to demonstrate. So what I usually do actually when I want to finish the braid is I take these loopy ends when my fingers don't fit anymore. I actually then divide it up into clumps of 3, and then I just do a standard 3-way braid. Hold this tape for a minute. It needs tension. I need to be able to get in the camera. Yeah. Okay.
I was trying to give you tension.
Okay. Now tension. Okay. So I just take these 3 clumps and I just braid them. And then, for example, if this were going to be made into a point, I would insert the braid. I would build the point, the shape around this braided part. Now this is super fat, so this is obviously not going to be a point. That would be weird. Yeah. But or if this is going to be used as trim, then this is the part that I fold under, right? So that you have that nice, neat edge there, and there's no raw edges that you need to worry about finishing, right? But that's how I finish finish off a finger lip braid. And if I'm not going to do anything with it for the moment, and I just want to kind of keep it locked up like that, then I just put a simple knot at the end. Not too tight. You don't want it too tight, just enough to kind of lock everything in place. And then when I'm ready to actually use it for an application, then, I undo it and apply as necessary. But that's how I personally finish my braids. I guess it's funny, I've never talked to if there are other finger loop braiders out there, other lace makers, as it were, let me know how it is that you usually finish your braids. Because I've never had this conversation before with other people. Let's see. I love the way that you're dressed. Oh, thank you. This is my 1480s Florentine at-home attire. I actually have a project vlog on making this entire gown. It's entirely hand sewn from start to finish. And also then the video of me getting dressed in it in a beautiful 15th century chamber. So yeah, you can check that out on the channel if you're really interested. Let me see. Interesting. I do some crochet mandala with 3 or 4 yarns and just pull the colors for the patterns. Oh, nice. When did Nabi start playing with it? Start playing with which thing? Oh. Oh,
That's why we can't replicate
where did it go? Oh, there it is. When did Nabi start playing with? That's actually not a bad point, Susan. Nabi means butterfly in Korean, and that's our little tiger stripe kitty's name. I also started to do some rugs. I crochet as I coil the rope and they come out beautiful. Coaster and things like that with smaller rope. I like twisting the ends or braid them. Ah, yeah, nice. Oh, thank you, OG Descendants, for that compliment on my dress. Appreciate it. Okay. So, any questions about 2-person braiding or the chevron braid? My condottiero is over there setting up some more loops for anyone who would like another demonstration.
I was just going to do the green doors so you can talk and do things.
Oh, okay. Well, I can, but I need to have a craft I can do.
Yeah, like a dozen crafts.
He's not wrong. My condottiero just said you have like a dozen crafts you can do. He's not wrong. Okay, so let me. I thought we got some new. Did we get some? We haven't gotten any new books, right?
Since last week.
Since last week. No.
I mean, we didn't talk about the calligraphy books I got, but I don't know if those are what we're talking about.
Oh, if you could pass. Yeah, handsome. Are you in a place where you can safely grab one of those books over there?
Yeah, which one do you want?
The one that's on the top, the Moda Italiana of nel 400.
Finish this note.
Yeah, so this this is the super wide version of the version that's here around my neckline, for those who didn't see. And you actually see this exact chevron braid on 15th century Florentine portraits from the latter part of the 15th century around the ladies' necklines. There's a double set. It's either a betrothal or a marriage set of wedding portrait of a young couple. And she's actually really buxom, which is kind of unusual for 15th century Florence. And around her neckline is this chevron. So that's why I wanted to specifically to do the chevron today, was to show you how to make a wide chevron, because this is a very narrow one, but the one on hers is actually wider. So I suspect that the one on hers is the 12 bow chevron instead of the 8 bow chevron. So this is an 8 bow one person, and this is the 12 bow two person. So I suspect hers is at least the 12 bow two person, because it is wider, but it's not particularly thick. It's just wider. So that's my theory on that. And that's why I wanted to show you, because this is a documentable way to make your own trim with no equipment needed, right? Okay, so let me see. How do you keep it from rolling? Like the tablet weaving where the outside go in the same direction. Vicky, it just doesn't roll. It doesn't, there is no rolling. There's no rolling. And that may be one of the other benefits of tablet, or sorry, not tablet weaving, fingerloop braiding, is that it doesn't roll. It doesn't roll or wrap around on itself at all. This one actually does on purpose. The Condrake is actually, you affix it to a spinning gadget called what's it called? The spinny thing that you're supposed to attach the Condrake to. There's a word for it.
But that was the Condrake.
Yeah. Anyway, it attaches to the spinning thing, and there's a word for it in the sources. And so this actually does spin, but it's supposed to, like, you want it to spin. Because that's how the pattern is created. But otherwise, these other braids, they do not spin. The round ones spin, but they're supposed to. The flat ones do not spin. It's called a swivel. A swivel. There's
in the manuscript says to use a turn.
Turn. That's right. The 15th century, a torna. Yeah, the 15th century manuscript for this one says to use a torna, which we refer to modernly as a swivel. But otherwise, there is no rolling. Yeah. Yes. So Kaylee, it's cool. I'll say it again. This is absolutely used as decorative trim. Specifically, I'm using it around the neckline here. So, and that's because there is actually an extant, there's a portrait from like 1485-ish. I think it's by Ghirlandaio. I think the portrait is by Ghirlandaio. And her neckline has this chevron trim all the way around it. And so, yeah, absolutely. It can be used as trim for your clothing. It can be used as laces. All of my laces are bows, are bowed laces, right? These are all proper, what we now call finger loop braiding. The laces here, this is actually, the lace here on the sleeve is actually the green dorge with 3 proper colors made with silk, which is why it's so fine. This is actually silk embroidery thread that I used for that. This lace is a round lace of 5 bows. You may tell that I had to reach into my emergency stash of finger loop braiding and provide some lacing, because the laces I had made for these just disappeared. So, living historian tip: always have a pouch of random lengths and widths of finger loop braiding, so that when you have an emergency lacing or tying up situation, you have something secure but decorative on hand, strong but decorative on hand, because these laces are super strong, right? The act of weaving these, braiding these bows together really creates something that's strong. So it's, even though they are decorative, they're also practical. Yeah, and they'll last a long time. OG Descendants, thank you for joining. We will be doing more of these for certain. This seems to have been a really popular format. I was trying to use swivels like for fishing to keep it from twisting and coiling. Yeah, so it's funny because on these braids, you don't need it on the flat braids when you're doing a flat lace, as they call them. There is no twisting, only the exact kind that you need, but then you want the twisting and coiling on the round ones like this. So yeah, that's interesting that's an issue in tablet. I haven't encountered that issue in tablet weaving myself. It's been a while since I tablet wove, but there was a period where I was doing a lot of it because I wanted to. Oh, Handsome, could you pass my gonella? I'll show them my first attempt at tablet weaving. Yeah. I was making the trim for the entirety of my gonella, which was my Botticelli Venus costume for a 15th century costume ball, right? So this is actually a combination of tablet weaving and finger loop braiding. So this was my first ever tablet weaving, and I made like 15 or 20 yards of it, or 30 yards of it. So this is my first ever tablet weaving. This is silk with a linen core. And so I was figuring a lot of things out. For one, if you use linen, if you use silk warp linen weft, if you use a linen weft, it will actually show up and impact the sheen. But yeah, this was I don't remember how many tablets this was, 16, maybe 20. This was my first ever anything. And these parts are actually finger loop braided. So I got tired of warping up the tablets, and so I broke down and just started doing broad 7-loop tablet woven braids, or finger loop braided laces, to do the rest of the trim for this thing. And as always, I didn't leave myself enough time to make this garment. And as always, there's lots of things I would do differently if I'd actually taken the proper time to do it. But yeah, so you might sometimes see me wearing this over top of a gown, a camora like this, because even though Botticelli uses them as his goddess outfits, right? They were a real garment that women really wore over top of gowns like this at the home, right? It was almost like a kind of apron smock like thing, but that was still really elegant and beautiful. Right. And so women would wear these. We think they're called gonelle. We think that's what's being referred, or guarnelle, sorry, guarnelle, not gonelle. Apologize. Guarnelle. We think that might be what that garment is referring to. Yeah, you also see like angels wearing them often in 15th century art. Yeah, so that's what that was. Let me see. Questions. Do you have any silk braids you can show? Yeah. Oh, sorry. So maybe, sorry, maybe I already did that, Ocean. Here is, this is a silk braid, right? And you can definitely see the shine, how it shines, right? This was made with silk floss. And this was made with vintage silk floss, like from the 1920s factory spools on these giant wooden spools that a friend found a stash of them on eBay for me and gave them to me. So yeah, this is what the silk will look like. It's just going to shine so beautifully. Let's see how it gets in this camera.
It wasn't Ghirlandaio. At least I couldn't find it in there.
The portraits are in Beauty and Virtue on the writing desk there. Right. So this is how the silk looks. So you can definitely see why humans really like silk, because it's super shiny. Yeah. Let me see. Oh, you're Sami. Very nice, Vicky. Lovely to meet you. Do you also do null binding as well, I assume? Although that might be, sorry if that's stereotypical of me to assume that someone who's Sami also does finger loop binding. JL depends on the pattern. Some tablet weaving patterns are twist neutral. Yeah. The only one I really ever did was either, 2 forward, 2 back, or just constant twist. So that never really created a problem. I miss the Reta. It was a while since it's broke. Next braid project. Oh, the Reta. I have the Reta somewhere. It still can be made to work vaguely. My Reta. So for those who don't know, the Reta or Rete is that sort of net-like thing that you see usually younger women wearing in late 15th century Italian portraits. Ghirlandaio's, there's the young lady, the youngest of the ladies in the Cappella Maggiore in Santa Maria Novella, and Ghirlandaio's masterpieces there. She's famously wearing one, and she has her hair in that long ponytail in the back. That's a rete, or a vespaio, maybe. We think it may have also been called. Yeah, my plan is I have made one. I did, Tommaso is right. I have one made out of finger loop braiding, and I do plan on making another one. That's been in the works for years. Yeah.
Years.
Yeah. Pretty Botticelli inspired Guarnello. The Primavera gown. Yeah, exactly. The Primavera gown. Yeah. It's one of the portraits in the back, I think. Anyway, yeah. So that has been our experiment with 2-person finger loop braiding. I Some of you may recall last week you'll notice it still isn't done. Don't worry, I'm saving all of these loops for you, but it's going to be very hard for me to. I never tried to sew one of these things on me while it was on me. I bet I could do it. I don't know if I want to do it though. I'm still in the process of attaching the rest of the lacing rings onto the lower part of the skirt. My work is never done. And I definitely want to, now that we've done this 2-person chevron style braid, we're definitely going to be delving into, I want to do more of that, practice more of this, and then eventually we'll practice more on this cotton yarn, and then we will transfer and do it on silk. So maybe next week we'll show you working on silk, because silk it's so beautiful. You know, it just creates such a beautiful sheen, as we demonstrated. Let's see. Other, you've got your green dorge set up.
I do.
You do, yeah.
I pulled that out because you can specifically see the laces for the men in that picture.
Oh, yeah. Right. So we were talking about applications. Well, you've also got, of course, none of yours are Fingerloop braided. You need to actually make all new laces for yourself.
Yeah, well, this was emergency. I had to buy shoelaces to kit myself out when I was in the
Okay.
States.
So someone once commented that Fingerloop braids laces done that way, when they're really well done, they look like modern shoelaces made on a machine, because if you have really good tension, then it looks like that. Okay. So, in this, we need your help here. It's the shine, unfortunately. Okay, yeah. So you see that gentleman with the cocky stance there in the background, being whispered into his ear. This is Salome dancing for Herod to, her mother basically wants the head of John the Baptist, and there comes the head of John the Baptist. And you will see on their sleeves and around their hosen are points, on all of them actually. Now, so these points may have been Fingerloop braided laces, or they may have been narrow wear ribbon. Both were used, indeed. And sometimes if you get a better portrait that's more detailed, you can definitely tell when it's one or the other. Right. So it's very obvious, because narrow tablet woven bands or other woven bands that are narrow wears just produce a much thinner, finer effect than Fingerloop braiding really can, because of the nature of the braiding. Yeah. Do you embroider? Do you both embroider? Do you embroider as well? You haven't really
I've taken the class that you teach.
Yeah, my conductiro says he's taken the class I teach, but not that he scooch which way?
So that you're still in front of the camera.
Oh, okay. But not that he does it himself. Okay, so I am going to continue working on my frontleted kerchief, as I'm calling it. Some of you may have seen the video I put out on the experiment with the finished frontlet is done. And now I'm working on finishing up hemming the veil so that it's all ready to go. I had an unfortunate experience with my dip starch dye bath. Some of you may remember I talked about dip starching. So here's a pro tip. Don't forget about your bath tub full of starchy water. And don't forget that you put another silk veil in there to be starched and ironed for, I don't know, 5 days in the spring when it's starting to get warm. Stay tuned for the video on that, showing you the unfortunate results of all of that. Do I recognize you from the SCA? Probably you do. I am known in the SCA as Judith de Northumbria, Countess and Master of the Order of the Laurel. So you probably most likely do. And if you ever go to Penzic and you go dancing, I spend a lot of hours in the Penzic Dance Pavilion teaching dance and leading dance. Some of you may not know this about me, but I am an avid dancer and dance researcher and have a lot of videos on medieval and Renaissance dance, and probably teach about 20 or 30 hours at Penzic, plus lead balls and dance randomly whenever I want to. So yeah. Let me see. Antier, I was briefly in Antier, but most of my SCA life has been spent in Drachenwald.
I know me from Antier.
Yeah, my condottiero is definitely from Antier. So interesting. Are you familiar with the Sami Four Winds hat? I am not, actually. Now I'm going to have to go look that up, Vicky. Thank you for putting me down another rabbit hole. I love rabbit holes. I love how how historical your whole house is. Yeah. So it's not the most historical that it can be. It has been more historical. We're in a kind of interim situation, shall we say. Most of our belongings are in storage somewhere, but I always have at least 2 or 3 tapestries with me wherever I go so that I have a nice medieval backdrop, no matter what.
So can you see it?
Oh, and here. Oh, Bjorn. So yeah, I'm often kind of lurking in a lot of places, and Shire of Lionsdale is absolutely one of them. So you've probably seen me post things, videos and whatnot to share. So yeah, it's nice to meet you. I hope we can meet in person someday.
Ooh, I'm going to what's the event coming
In
up?
Madrona,
Yeah, the Madrona.
lion something or other.
No,
Another.
sea lion is
No, not sea lion. But I thought the other thing was also a lion thing. Is it not?
Maybe.
You're stepping on my veil.
Sorry.
Okay, so I just thought I'd show you the starched veil. So this is forward, so we have a little more room. On the, probably for you, right camera, my condottiero is doing a green dorge fingerloop braid, and he's decided to put the emphasis on the braid rather than the fingers. Anyway,
Now
so
you can see how it's coming together.
right.
Can you see it?
Yeah, they can see it. Yeah, so this is how the veil is looking so far. I've just now getting around to finally putting the bottom hem in, or one of the hems in. The original, what's really frustrating about the art from this era showing this kind of veil kerchief combination is they don't really show, they present them like they're these magic diaphanous garments that have no seams and no hems. And while you can weave a fabric the right width so that you don't have to put a hem on the long sides, there's no evidence that they were weaving them to be completely, circularly to be completely finished or something like this. So there have to be some kind of some hem at the end. I guess they could have. That being said, I starched this, and it's got this like fringe because of that's just how the edge was, and it's pretty much glued. It's not coming undone because the starch has glued it all in place. And there is some evidence of beeswax being used as a fray check on the insides of seams. In one extant garment particular I'm thinking about, they detected beeswax on the edge of the seams to keep it from raveling. So it could be that maybe they just brushed the edges with some melted beeswax, or the starching process, they trimmed it neatly and then immediately starched it so that it wouldn't come undone, and then you don't need a bottom hem. But thinky thoughts aloud. Unfortunately, none of these veils have actually survived, so we don't know for certain. We only have visual evidence of them in art, and we have expense accounts talking about them, but no details about how they were actually made. Yeah. Did I say Lionsgate? I meant Lionsdale. Sorry. There's so many lions. There's all these lion events coming up and so many lion groups. Sorry about that. The Four Winds hat, it's like a jester hat with 4 points. It has a tablet woven cross on the top and a thick band around the head. It has tassels to show wind speed. Oh, that is interesting. Also, I know how the winds can get up in the Arctic Circle, especially where it's kind of flat and open and not many trees around. That could be interesting as an experience. Could it be for archers so that they know which way to shoot? Actually, that's an interesting point. If you're hunting, yeah. If you're doing bow hunting, that's a good point. Do you know if the Four Winds hat had the practical purpose of helping them determine the direction of the wind for, say, bow hunting or some other application? And here is all lines. Exactly. That is exactly right.
Yeah, I will be at an event, and here, if you want to learn finger loop weaving, I can definitely teach some of the basic braids easily. Grab this girl and dial book up.
Can I grab? Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we've ordered some more books, I think, haven't we?
No, we just have the list.
Oh, we have a list, right. We have some There's a cut on my finger. Oh, is there a cut? Kitties, why is there a cut on my finger?
Why am I bleeding? Cat edition.
Why am I bleeding? Cat edition. Yeah. So yeah, I am actually wondering about whether the edges of these veils were in fact, were they maybe they weren't hemmed. Maybe they were starched and that was all that was needed, or maybe, which makes me think I might experiment with leaving this end unfinished and just see what happens. Maybe trim the fringe away, some of the fringe away, and just see if it actually survives on its own. Putting a hem in adds a little more bulk. It changes the way it flows. It actually makes it more three-dimensional. It makes it stand out more. The second you add a hem to an organza like this, it definitely gives it more body, shall we say.
Actually, you want to know why I want to do the green dorge?
It was worn on coastal areas, Vicky says. Ah, so maybe having to do with something with, I mean,
I could see nautically needing
maybe some, maybe useful on boats for determining the wind direction and how to tack into the wind or something like that, maybe.
or it's a boasting thing. I know how.
Vicky says, I think it should be finished. Yeah. Thankfully, I have time to think on that because I do have the one, I have the one side still where I've already put the hem in to finish anyway. The hem's already there, so I'm not taking it out. Yeah. Sometimes, it's funny what artists will sometimes include in the details that they cover in their paintings and what they then don't. Like, I wish you would just either be completely detailed, every single thread of the woven fabric shown, or none, and then we don't have to wonder about whether you intentionally left something out or not. But that's just the modern fashion historian perspective. Obviously, medieval art and Renaissance art, the purpose was not to document the clothing for future fashion historians, contrary to our hopes and wishes.
Where's the?
Yeah.
Oh, can they still see it?
Well, they can see. Yeah, you can see it now. So the green dorge, and actually, gosh knows, it was probably in 15th century English. It was probably pronounced the grena dorga, probably the grena dorga, which it depends on whether the word dorge is an English word or a French word, actually, because 15th century English did have a lot of French words that were basically pronounced a French way. So yeah, I actually haven't looked up the etymology of that. But anyway, the braid that's happening here on the right screen for you all is the green, what we modernly call the green dorge. Probably was pronounced the grena dorga. And it's a really lovely, pretty braid. It's the braid that's actually in my sleeve right now. Makes a good neckline decoration, really good for purses. Also would be pretty woven, braided into your hair. Hey, sadly, artists aren't tailors. They really are not.
But tailors are artists.
And Vicky says, yeah, right. Like replicating any weave pattern. I know. Yeah. I really want to add some finger loop braiding to my garment now. You both make it look so good and easy. Yeah, so Kaylee, I definitely recommend checking out my green dorge tutorial. I think you'll be good. I think it will be good for you. The reality is that everyone learns differently. And so the way one person teaches a technique may or may not work for other people. Yeah. Oh, that was the other question. And I'm sorry if I overlooked the answer. For our next finger loop braiding, our lace making extravaganza, would you all prefer that we have the numbers written like prison tattoos on our fingers, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, so you can see which fingers we're using very clearly, or would you rather not have that visual distraction? Just let me know. We're trying to get a sense of what works best for people. I have no idea. Yeah, we're gonna put it on your hands now. If they want to see your hands.
Yeah. Can they see my hands?
They can. Yep, they can see your hands now. Wait, hold on. I will put the lap cover upon him that thee may see it more easily. Okay, there we go. Okay, so go ahead and tell them what you're doing, handsome, or when you get back to the starting position. The green dorge is definitely one we like to teach as a beginner braid because even though the 5-bow braid is simpler, slightly simpler, this one produces a more visually interesting braid to start with. Yeah. Let me see. I think it would be better to have a diagram in the background. Oh, I wish we could do that. Can't do a diagram in the background. Not, we don't have that. What about colored tape to designate the fingers? I would be worried about the tape actually interfering with the loops. Yeah, it would get knocked off by the loops probably, which is why we actually use in my tutorial, we actually use a Sharpie to actually put the letters on my fingers, both front and from the top, so you can see the letters clearly. Yeah.
The permanent marking we do for you.
Love this like it's cat's cradle. Yeah, it really
Very
is.
much.
It really is basically.
So the basic setup for this one is you've got 3 different colors. Oop, and I lost it. I was gonna wiggle it.
More hook.
You've
Keep
got
those fingers hooked.
you've got the 4 loops. That's gonna make your outer edge of the braid, and then your 2 colors do the barley corn down the center. Um, you have 1 color on A on your left hand, 1 color on D on your right hand, and then the
No, C or
D,
D. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
and then the 2 B and C fingers hold the other 4 loops for the other color. What you do is you start by opening up
Prison
the tunnel
times it is.
and reversing
Here, let's go ahead and try. Let's go
Okay.
ahead and try.
A. And just on
Yeah.
top because we don't have a front.
What
They can't read that. It's the wrong direction.
do you mean I can't read that?
It's upside down.
Ah, whatever. We've never tattooed each other in this manner before. Next time we'll do this before it's set up and then it won't be quite so haphazard. We weren't certain. At first we thought we would, then my condottiero suggested we didn't need it, but I know it's helpful in the tutorials to actually see which fingers are which clearly. So we'll give this one a try, and then you all who have watched the first braid can compare, and if you want to go back and watch from the beginning, if you're just joining in, you can see.
Okay. So you can see I have it set up like this. You're going to take A on your right hand and put it through both of the loops on B and C. So I use my thumb to create this little tunnel. And I'm going to grab the loop that's on C from the bottom so that when I pull it through, it reverses. Bloody hell. I dropped the other one.
You have to remember, arthritic hooks are the key. You basically, your fingers, when you're finger loop braiding, you should pretend you have arthritis, right? Your fingers really need to be like modern crochet hooks because the second you start doing this, the loops are going to come off.
And then what you do is you lower B down to C, and then you're going to open up C so that you can reach with B across to pull C from the other hand, reversed. Then you lower A and B down, making sure that you tighten occasionally. Now, there's 2 ways to do the exchange. There's one where I just push it across and then I pull the other loop off unreversed, or I take it and I reverse it. Supposedly, if you reverse it, it makes a more pronounced barley corn. Now, no, can you tell where I've switched on the design?
Where you've switched what?
The center. It's supposed to be more barley corn like on if I reverse the thread.
This one maybe? This looks different. But that could be you just being
That's not
tighter.
right.
Could be you just being tighter.
And then that's it. You're actually kind of back
Yeah.
to the beginning. You start
Hold on.
over,
Hold on.
reach through, reverse, lower, reach through, reverse,
Yeah, there we go.
lower, and then I've been reversing the exchange.
Which now that they can see the front of your fingers, having the letters on the front would probably be good too.
Would you be able to see that? Read those on my knuckles? I don't know if they'd be able to.
Depends on how big their screen is. Okay, so we're going to put the letters on the front too. B, C, C, D,
It's a good thing I don't work anymore.
Hey,
I'm retired
temporarily.
temporarily.
Let's see. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Give it a moment to dry, probably.
That she's right though. Having to do the finger crook is huge. Do you want to push the weighted chair that way 3 inches?
Which way?
That way. That way.
Oh.
There you go. Perfect. Now my hands are centered.
Just lower this a little bit more. Okay.
Yeah, you could do 1, 2, 3, 4.
You could do 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the original 15th century, they talk about A, B, C, and D for whatever reason. In original 15th century instructions use the letters. And so that's just the way I've always thought of it, because that's the instructions that I read are with the letters. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can tell that once you get used to a pattern, it goes really quickly.
Maybe
So
go ahead
remember,
and explain again.
Now that I'm at the start again, I'm going to take A in the right hand, put it through the backs of B and C of the right hand to grab C reversed on the left hand, pull it through and tighten it, lower B down to C, and then use my thumb to open C to make a tunnel and grab the bottom, grab C reversed and pull it through the loop, lower A and B down to B and C, and then we're going to exchange the 2 single color loops and tighten.
You know, Kaylee, I was thinking about using turmeric as a dye stuff, and I bet there's some antimicrobial properties there that would be helpful in creating more longevity for the fabric, especially in climates that are naturally moist, which a lot of Asia is. So I just wonder, I wonder if turmeric has that additional property. In addition, it makes it that yellow orange color, which is, has its reasons in various practices. But if it would also, the Shaolin monks especially, and not just Shaolin monks, there are Korean monks are not Shaolin monks, and they also have orange robes. Some of them also wear orange robes. So yeah, I wonder if there's that practical property of turmeric as a dye stuff.
Started as practical, and they're like, well, we need to make sure people just use this.
Yeah. We want our fabric to stop mildewing, so we'll put this stuff on it. It's a nice color though. But sometimes we as humans really do just do things because it's pretty. Sometimes we don't have to look for a greater, deeper meaning. How quickly does it go if you're a klutz? Actually, so I will say that finger loop braiding, that making laces in this manner, will actually reduce the amount of klutz you are. It will actually train you out of klutziness. But yeah, obviously, if if one's fingers are more prone to slips and drops, it will take a little longer. But I promise it will actually it will improve your dexterity for certain. An activity like this is a good way to get over manual klutziness, as it were.
I can play the loop now.
I actually saw something on that. It's actually part of my experiment. They use saffron and turmeric for the color, and I'm wondering what other properties it has. For certain, saffron definitely has antimicrobial properties. I know that for a fact. And in Ireland, using it to dye Irish undershirts, there's a wonder about if that was definitely part of the concern, is that Ireland being a wet environment, they needed something to keep their linens from moldering, because linen is more prone to mildewing than wool is. So I in my research for medieval Irish clothing in general, I encountered that concept several times, that saffron as a dye stuff, is also a practical choice, not just a color choice. But also, yellow is much more likely to cover up the smudges and stains from the dirty, nasty, fetid environment that is human skin. Let's see where I am at. It's really wet, so I'm leaving that point where it just automatically cycles. Okay, we're back. Where I'm at, it's really wet, so I'm leaving a few of them outside while it rains to see what happens. Oh, it's a good idea.
Practical.
So interestingly, the dyeing manuals always talk about using rainwater. Manuals talking about laundering as well. They always talk about using good rainwater. And that's because in the Middle Ages, your cleanest water, it was going to be basically atmosphere distilled, right? And they would actually have barrels set out specifically to collect rainwater. And that was of course before the skies were filled with all sorts of pollution that would probably now come down with rainwater. I'm assuming rainwater is no longer as naturally distilled as it once was. Especially when I know that the rainwater is clearing out a lot of the gunk in the air on its way down. So it might no longer be such a good idea to use rainwater for one's dyeing experiments, but that could be, that could be also depend on where one lives and what the air quality is.
About pollen.
Or, oh God, pollen. Yeah, right now, ooh, I don't know about where you all are. Where we are right now in Korea, there is so much pollen that the streets, everything is yellow with it. And I mean measurable amounts of pollen. And now that it's rained, there are like streams of yellow flowing everywhere, which would explain why Korea has this yummy delicacy called a bee pollen cake. They are so super yummy, but yeah, if you have pollen in this quantity, then probably the bees are also collecting pollen in said quantities and therefore figure out what to make something yummy and edible from it.
We saw them putting out beehives at the hotel.
Well, that's true. Yeah, we were at a hotel in Seoul last week and they actually had beehives on the hotel grounds, which I thought was pretty nifty. Let me see. They did a lot of felting up north to cut the wind and for warmth. That sure reduced the weaving time. Yeah, felting definitely reduces the weaving time. In fact, I been doing research into felting specifically because I'm going to be doing some shorts on headwear, and this hat is felted. um, and so I was looking into felting, and they actually, I read an essay where the author, the academic posited that nomadic life would be impossible without felted wool. That the nomads of the northern areas, that their lives would basically be impossible without felted wool because, as you say, the warmth and of course the weatherproofness of it. But also, nomads don't have time to weave. Weaving is very time consuming. As you noted, felting is much less time consuming. So, especially in an era that predates lots of trade where most peoples are nomadic, you can't really have nomadic societies in cold places without felting, whether it's wool or felting some other, I guess, some other animal fiber that may or may not count as wool, depending on one's definition of wool.
I remember we went through Mongolia a little while ago, and there was a lot of felted articles in the.
Oh
gift
yeah,
store.
I mean, in Mongolia to this day, felting is still a going concern. We have a bunch of felted. I don't know where those are. No, not just that. We have the felted
Oh, the mats.
mats.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know where those are.
They're by the kiddie station.
They're by the kiddie station. Yeah, we have a bunch of felted mats from Mongolia that are really pretty. We also found a horsehair rope at the gift shop at the airport in Ulaanbaatar.
She almost bought it.
We almost bought it, but then I noticed that wool moths had nested and were just eating it away. It was horrifying. I had never seen wool moths eat horsehair before, but it makes sense. It's an animal protein, so
They had to eat something before we started giving them wool products.
So that was I brought it up to the
Proprietor.
I brought it to the proprietor and advised them that unless they wanted the wool felted items in their shop to fall prey, they should get rid of that horsehair rope as soon as may be. Once I showed them the larvae that were crawling around, they understood. Their English was not necessarily obviously, their English was not necessarily up to the task of understanding my discourse on the dangers of wool moths, but the visuals were enough. Let me see.
Oh, there we go.
Wow, could use for a dye perhaps and attract bees. Oh yeah, that would be nice. To produce a more saturated and vibrant color in your garments, do you suggest anything? I've seen salt and cream of tartar, but I'm wanting an expert opinion on that one. Well, first off, let me just clarify that I am I am an amateur at almost everything, at least in my own mind. I guess maybe it's imposter syndrome. I just always feel there's so many more things to learn that I don't know if I can ever really count myself as an expert in anything, but that's an internal job. Anyway, back to your question. Yeah, salt and cream of tartar will bring out more vibrant colors. The cream of tartar is acidic, and a lot of dyes are acidic dyes and work better in an acidic environment in general. So vinegar will also help usually. Um,
Copper pot.
Copper pot is the way to go. So copper pots are what they used in the Middle Ages and even the early modern world. And that's because the copper ions from the pot actually help with the dyeing process and creating more vibrant colors. A length of time in the dye bath will also impact it. So letting it sit in the dye bath for longer will generally get you a more saturated color, but also multiple baths, so multiple dips, right? So not just once, but you dye it, you let it dry, and then you put it back in again, right? So you can actually do over dye to get deeper colors. Not necessarily darker colors, just deeper, more saturated colors. Yeah.
Did you dip my spot?
Uh, didn't salt, yeah, salt, exactly. Salt also helps set the color. For certain, salt helps mordant the color. Also, Kaylee, what kind of mordant are you using? I'm assuming alum. Alum is pretty much the go-to in most medieval dye recipes.
That never happens.
What is it?
Like at the end of my thing, it's not.
It's completely open.
Yeah,
That's weird.
it's like the braid started down here instead of at the knot. How very odd.
Swapping in. Okay, let's show them okay, so this, again, we did this specifically in big yarn so that it would be visually visible. Right, so here is the finished green dorge in big thick yarn, and I'll show you what I meant by it, especially if you'd been using toes, this would be reduced, but you can see the difference. There's a pretty massive difference between the beginning and the end, and that's all due to tensioning, which is why if you have a person to actually beat it themselves, then the tension might actually be more even. But also if he'd been using his toe at the beginning the way I do, it's a good workout, but also you get your full finger loop braiding Pilates workout in, but also then you can maintain more tightness earlier on because you can really see let me see if I can get all 3 layers of tightness next to each other.
I'm normally better at it, but not enough room on the couch.
You can see the progression in the tightness, and this is all one braid, all the exact same yarn. Yeah, but beautiful work, really maintained a nice pattern despite the interruptions. Oh yeah, the green dorge is actually nicely forgiving.
Yep.
It's one of the more forgiving braids. There are some that are way less forgiving,
You
but the
can't
green
even tell
dorge.
where I dropped it.
Yeah, you can't even. So that's the interesting thing. Normally you can see where people drop things, but it's not visually obvious here where he dropped loops because because of the nature of the thing, it doesn't really impact the pattern. It just kind of impacts the length of certain pieces. So, yeah. You have said that before. I haven't gotten it yet. Oh, dip it more than once. Hadn't really thought about that. Yeah. Also, a lot of dyes, colors were achieved in medieval dyeing by over dye. So, green was achieved usually by a yellow dye over dyed or an indigo dye over dyed with yellow, usually. Right. And so that would create that green color. And there's a lot of colors that are mentioned in the sources in the inventories that are definitely multiple over dye, the result of multiple over dye. Black has a couple of ways to make it, but the bestest black I have read in a early 16th century manual, the bestest black is made with indigo, oak gall, and madder to create the deepest black. The oak gall provides a lot of tannins and actually provides iron oxide, and so that actually kind of oxidizes everything, those colors. And then basically the blue of the indigo with the red of the madder being an over dye, then that really creates a purple. But then the iron oxide from the oak gall basically oxidizes it all to this amazingly deep, profound, very multi-dimensional saturated black. Unfortunately, as some of you know from watching my various videos and live streams, black is the most corrosive color because of that iron oxide. You're literally rusting the fibers of your fabric, and so it's not going to last very long. And it certainly will not last to the modern day, which is why we have almost no black textiles from the Middle Ages. No true black. We have some things where it was like super dark blue or something like that, but not the second you add that oak gall, the iron oxide, it's game over for fibers. The green dorge is beautiful, even spaced out on the tension. Yeah, it's just a really lovely braid in general. It really is. And
It's one
it's
of my favorites.
and it's flat enough when you're not making it out of super thick yarn. It's flat enough that it can function, like I said, as laces for your garments. So let me see if I can twist my arm around so you can see. There we go. Yeah. So you can use it as laces for garments. And it's pretty, right? Obviously, no one is really going to see the pattern unless they put their face up to it, but still, you feel pretty on the inside, right? I've had arguments with people about various colors in the medieval period in my classes, actually on how orange is a period color and how to achieve it with references to orange garments. Yeah, so orange is a funny color because people think, because there is no word for it specifically in the medieval sources, that that orange didn't exist. And I've actually read papers on that. The whole idea that that orange just didn't exist until oranges, the actual fruit, started being imported into Northern Europe. And there might be something to that, except that I know from dyeing myself, that it is absolutely possible to accidentally dye something orange when you mean it to be red. um, I think that maybe it just wasn't necessarily a desirable color in Western Europe for whatever reason. Um, it doesn't appear as a separate color in the inventories, for instance. But that doesn't mean it didn't exist. It just means it was sort of lumped into another color, probably. Yeah, but I'm always interested in new evidence, um, because basically history. Everyone thinks that history is set in stone. That what we know now about history is what we've always known, and we always will know. No, history is an absolutely evolving discipline. As more information, as more sources are discovered, there's so many sources that are in private libraries. I mean, primary sources, manuscripts that are in private libraries. And so until someone generally dies and those get donated to a public institution, they're going to sit in this private library unknown for the most part. So we're constantly developing a different sense of how things were in the past, about events of the past, about how people lived. So, there was a time when people thought, and some people still think this incorrectly, that medieval women didn't wear underpants. And I found so much evidence proving that that is not true. And yet there's still people who hold it as an article of faith. My point is, new evidence has come to light. There was a time where people thought medieval women didn't wear breast support. New evidence has since come to light, both documentary and actual archaeological evidence. So we're constantly finding new things. So this ties back to the orange, this little diatribe ties back to orange in that, yeah, I haven't found evidence of the color orange as a separate thing, recognized as a separate thing. Um, I mean, yeah, but I mean, that's pigment, that's not clothing.
Yeah, but they had to have
But
known
that
orange.
doesn't mean that they couldn't figure it out or dye things that color. It's really easy. Matter and weld would absolutely give you an orange, or the wrong ionic properties or pH of your dye bath will turn matter orange. Ask me how I know. Yeah, there we go. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, Kaylee, that's sorry, I just saw your comment, Kaylee. Yes, that's how I know that you can make matter turn orange. I boiled it accidentally because I wasn't paying attention to the pot. So yeah, it will turn your fabric. Now it's not going to be the orange that I attained was not like, it wasn't orange orange. It wasn't fruit orange orange, but it was definitely a shade of orange for certain. Yeah. Let me see. Next comment. Maybe they just didn't have a word for it and they described it differently. A bit like red is used to describe a hair color that looks a lot more orange than actual red to the modern eye. Yeah, Lori, exactly. It's the theory of the theory of colors is an interesting one. And there's even some theories that maybe people haven't always seen the same colors that we now see. And then if you, yeah, like blue versus green in Korea is an issue, because I mean, like, I'll be looking at a thing and I will say to a Korean friend, that is blue, and they will look at the exact same thing and they'll say to me, no, it's green. And they speak English. It's not, and they'll even use the Korean word for green or blue instead. Like they are literally seeing a different color than I am somehow.
So weirdly, I've looked into this a little bit for blue. And if you look at a lot of the old poetry and stuff, they don't use the word blue to describe things ever. Like they don't have the word blue. So it's like the wine dark sea.
Oh, right. Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. You mean Korean poetry?
No, Western.
Oh, Western poetry. Oh, right. I had read that. The birth of there's an essay. Yes, thank you. I think there's an essay, an academic essay that I read, something like on the advent of the color blue, or something like that. It's on academia.edu. If you all don't know that website, go check it out. And look up like the color blue and see what essays come up. I read it and it was very fascinating. My conductor is right. He's like old poetry, and I mean like ancient poetry. They don't seem to have a word for the color blue. They refer to the sea as being like wine colored, which the Mediterranean, I think I'm talking like ancient Greek poetry. The Mediterranean does not look wine colored. What is wrong with your wine if it's that color? So yeah, the theory about colors and perception of colors, and there's even Philip from Irish medieval history was telling me he read something, an essay about early medieval Ireland, that suggested that there's actually been an anatomical evolution in human eyesight since the first millennium that is allowing us to see different colors. I mean, I haven't looked into that myself, but he's mentioned it a couple of times.
I've heard that as well.
Let me see. They use a bug for red dye in Peru, cochineal. Vicky, I have worked with cochineal. I only ever managed to get a bright, vibrant pink out of it, but that was because I was using a pot that had an iron pot where the enamel had come away, and so iron was infecting my dye bath. Yeah, so in the most vivid, brightest, bestest red in medieval Europe was Kermes. And Kermes is a cousin of cochineal. It produces a better red, but cochineal has more dyeing power per gram. Cochineal is kind of a more concentrated version of the Kermes, but Kermes red is a different red. It's a deeper, more saturated red than cochineal is, even though cochineal is pretty good. Unfortunately, the Kermes louse, we basically hunted into extinction by the 16th or 17th century. Thankfully, by then they found cochineal from the New World, and cochineal took over the role of Kermes. Yeah. I have dyed with cochineal. It made my apartment smell like something had died. It was don't ever you shouldn't really be dying in a closed space anyway, because not all of those vapors are necessarily good for you. Like, right, it's just alum vapor is not necessarily the best thing for you. But also if you're working with, say, cochineal, which is an insect, it's going to smell real not fragrant when you boil it or cook it. It's just not. Yeah. Let me see. Kaylee says certain colors would definitely be more common than others, but my major argument is if Vikings were pink, we most certainly had orange. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, orange is definitely a color that can be created. Now, it'd be interesting. Maybe they were creating orange and they didn't realize it, right? Because maybe if this falls in with the line about the eyes having evolved anatomically in the last, say, 2,000 years-ish, or 1,500 years-ish, right? Then maybe they couldn't see the difference between orange and red, even though there was a difference. If you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I would never ding someone if I were judging someone's. Not that I sometimes get asked to judge historical clothing competitions. If I were doing so, I wouldn't ding someone for making something orange, as long as they can explain to me why they think it should be orange and provide me with, like you're doing, Kaylee, the science behind orange being absolutely easily attainable without any effort, right? Because it's just, there are so many reasons why colors we now see and use in our clothing might not have been mentioned in historical sources, but still existed, is my point. Philosophy of color. and clothing. Now, I will say that using art to determine what colors were available for clothing is dangerous, and this is going to go into my presentation on interpreting medieval art for fashion and the dangers thereof, because what you can achieve with ground pigments on parchment is different than what you can achieve in fibers. It just is automatically. There are many pigments that work perfectly well on parchment that will not work on fibers. They just don't. The fibers don't take them, they don't absorb, they won't mordant. So also artists are again, I think this brings us back to the complaint about artists not depicting clothing for the purpose of accurate representation or fashion history, but usually picking the colors for different reasons than even we would modernly. So not just because they're visually interesting, colors had significance. There was a language of colors in most places historically. Most cultures have a language of colors where the color actually conveys meaning. Right. So artists depicting biblical scenes or mythical scenes or even rulers were sometimes picking specific colors to convey meaning to the viewer. This person is powerful. This person is a traitor. This person is sneaky. This person is wise. This person is modest. Right. So you have to understand the language of colors when you're looking at art. Also, you have to understand that certain pigments were way more expensive than others, like lapis lazuli was the pigment of choice for blue. For painting, for calligraphy, for ink as well. By the way, there's some blue ink, and that's lapis lazuli. Can you imagine you're writing in a semi-precious stone? I mean, wow. So lapis lazuli comes from Afghanistan, right? Modern day Afghanistan, that part of the world. So for it to reach Europe was one hell of a process, right? That is an import from hell, and maybe not a metaphorical term, depending on how one views the Hindu Kush um, and its climate. So um, that means that all these paintings that you start seeing with lots and lots of blue in them, that's conspicuous consumption. That's like, oh, let's make the sky as deep blue as possible. And we're going to have the Virgin Mary in blue robes, and we're going to have blue columns. Why should this palace representing Pilate's palace have blue columns? Because lapis lazuli was expensive. So that doesn't mean that people were necessarily wearing that much blue all the time. I'm not saying they weren't. I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily mean they were, which is why you want that combination of documentary evidence, of archaeological evidence, of visual evidence. I call it my trinity of historical fashion, right? The ultimate triad of documentation. Let me see. Sorry, I'm backing up to comments. Sorry, everyone. I got talking and I missed some comments. Let me see. G Forge, I do not speak Arabic or read. I do kind of read Arabic, but I don't speak it, so I'm not certain what you said. Vicky, now I'm very curious about the dyes. The Sami felt is brilliant blue and red. So probably the traditional would probably be made from woad, which grows in that part of the world. Indigo, of course, is imported from India, so that wouldn't have been a traditional choice. Madder is also a weed and grows in that part of the world, so I'm pretty certain it's probably woad and madder are my guesses. But there might be something special growing up there in the Arctic Circle, some other plant that is maybe related to woad or related to madder or not, that could also be used. But my initial guess would be woad and madder. Okay, so talking about blue in illuminations, right? So this is a prime example of blue being used for the sake of blue, right? Do they really need a sky that has 4 shades of blue? Yes.
The mountains are blue.
The mountains are blue. Jesus is framed by lots of water, which is blue. You've got all of these people wearing blue, right? So my point is, I'm pretty certain that the ratio of blue wearing to other color wearing was not what this thing depicts. This is all about conspicuous consumption. My understanding is that there is little to no biological factor. Rather, color names usually show up when a culture has a specific practical reason to, often showing up when pigments did. I mean, that's a theory too, Nevis. I've heard that. And I'm relaying the concept of the anatomical change based on a paper I've heard about but haven't read. So that's practically apocryphal at that point. But that could be an interesting thing to look into for biologists. I have a lot of interest in pottery too. I like doing something to my own clay, maybe digging up your own clay. And there are paint mines where you can get the polychrome colors. Yeah, I've actually built a medieval oven at an event called Double Wars, an SCA event called Double Wars in Sweden, actually near kind of vaguely near Malmö. And we actually went and dug clay up from the local stream bed. We got horse manure from the local farm. We collected sand also from a local stream bed. I don't remember where we got the straw. I think we got the straw from the farm. We didn't go out and harvest the straw ourselves, but we got it from the horse farm where we got the manure. And we had some bricks which we used, which we didn't make ourselves. But the other materials we did collect ourselves. And there was something so hideously gratifying about that, really. Let me see. Kaylee says there's a theory that Egyptians would use lapis for makeup as well. Yeah, and I mean, if you want to talk about a striking shade of blue for your eyes, that would be gorgeous. Wow. I've heard that orange would probably be calling it something like tawny brown or something, right? Aaliyah, I've heard that too. Like it's just, you've got this color called russet, right? Maybe russet was a kind of orange. So it's almost like in the modern interior decor world, you have all these ridiculous names for colors like burnt Sierra. It's like, who went to a Sierra and saw what mountains look like after you set them on fire?
Nobody knows how to cook Sierra. It's either burnt or
Right? Burnt or what?
it's the other.
What's the other one?
Singed.
Sierra's always getting singed Sierra. No one knows how to cook Sierra. It's always getting burnt somehow. Let me see. The eye evolution, I think that's an excellent theory. Yeah, I now I want to go look up that paper, but I can't. I've already wandered down too many rabbit holes this week. I need to stay the course and focus on my current rabbit holes. No new rabbit holes for me this week. Maybe I'll look into the evolution of the eye and how that impacts the interpretation of colors historically next year. I think they found remnants of it in tombs. Oh yeah, absolutely. For certain, lapis lazuli has been found in tombs. Now, I'm trying to remember if in all the Egyptology museums I've been to, or museums with Egyptology exhibits, if I remember seeing any cosmetic cases that had lapis in it still, and I don't remember if I have, which doesn't mean I haven't. I just don't recall that offhand. Normally, I remember details like that because those kinds of daily life details of objects that people actually used on their body, that fascinates me. Let me see. Maxwell Parrish would feel at home in the medieval area. He used tons of blue. So would Loris Almatadema. Yeah, but he might not be able to afford to live in the medieval era. Mike, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Let me see. Nevis says we see other colors often enter a lexicon specifically when a new pigment became common. Yeah, for certain. Similarly, the Intuit having standard term combinations for dozens of types of white. Oh, Inuit, sorry. The Inuit having standard term combinations for dozens of types of white for snow. And several African groups have term tens of green categories for various flora. Yeah, absolutely. Nevis, all good points. All good points that your environment, what you're exposed to will determine whether you have a term for a thing. Linguistically, that's true in general. Which is why when Europeans encounter new things, they tend to fall back on a known thing and just recycle that name. For pumpkin, for instance, when they came to the New World, they saw these gourds and they said, well, that's a pumpkin too, even though their version of the pumpkin was not really like that very much at all. Botanically, yes, in taste and texture and whatnot, not. But they still use the same word, which can lead to a lot of confusion amongst modern people interpreting historical sources. Because again, this takes me back to make sure that the historical term you're encountering means what you think it means, which is why sources like the Middle English Compendium Dictionary online are super duper helpful, by the way. The Tutankhamun gold mask definitely has lots of lapis. Yeah, that's a beautiful piece. I saw that in the Cairo Museum back in, I mean, I also saw it in another exhibit, but I got to see it most recently in the old Cairo Museum back in 2010. That was amazing, but that museum was horrifying because there were thousands upon thousands of people inside of it, and it was chock-a-block. I mean, we were literally walking around like this, and I'm claustrophobic. I couldn't wait to get out of there. But the new Cairo Museum is open, has done a soft open, and is soon going to have their grand opening. The grand opening will include the Tutankhamun artifacts, and I hope they've done it really well. I'm hoping that they've created a replica of his tomb so you can actually feel what it was like to actually go in and see all these artifacts when the first archaeologists went in. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see. Let me see. Calabash versus winter squash. Yeah, exactly, Nevis. Exactly. I have a question. Is the Ojo de Dios a historical art? The God's Eye. My mother taught me to make these, but I really feel like it was interesting when I see it done in Peru. So the Ojo de Dios, I haven't necessarily, well, okay, so in the Middle East, in Turkey, they have this, or they have something similar. And I haven't actually looked into it, but it wouldn't, now that I'm thinking about it, it wouldn't surprise me if it came to Spain via the Moorish conquest. And then that predates Turkey, but that, right. I'm wondering if it's a more general concept in Arabic cultures, even predating Islam, if that came to Spain that way and then maybe ended up in Peru that way. I don't know. I'm just theorizing aloud here. So I don't have an answer for you that's actual, but I have some thoughts behind it. Wacky thing, Calabash had spread to the New World long before the Columbian Exchange, believed to have been carried on ocean currents. Yeah, there's a couple of things that fall under that heading. Although Koreans have a really, some Koreans, not all, some Koreans have a really funny nationalistic origin story for their gochu, their red pepper. Some of them claim that they came here as seeds carried by birds from Mexico. They didn't. There is no evidence of actual gochu before the 18th century in Korea, and red pepper did not start getting used heavily in Korean cuisine until after the Korean War. And before that, it was mostly used in the preservation of vegetables because people figured out that it was good at retarding the growth of unwanted microbiota. But the nobility, apparently in the Yangban in the Joseon era, did not like gochu. They didn't like the spice. They felt it was very unpleasant. They didn't enjoy it at all. And it was not included in royal palace food. But after the Korean War, when everyone was really poor in Korea, suddenly gochu became the go-to thing because of its antimicrobial properties, I presume, originally, and then everyone just got used to eating it. But yeah, Korea has a similar origin story when the reality is that it got here the same way all of the those nightshades got to Asia, thanks to the Portuguese. I can do what you're doing. It's kind of fun. Oh, cool, Eric. What kind of sewing do you like? What kind of things do you like to make? Or are you talking about medieval living history in general? Anti-parasitic in general. Yeah, also that. It's like all of those things. And if anyone has eaten, gochu, Korean red pepper, you'll know why. It's antimicrobial. Honestly, these are properties and anti-parasitic. Honestly, literally the thing that makes pepper spicy is a defense mechanism that should prevent things from eating it, all kinds of things from eating it. And yet here we humans come along and say, yeah, we don't care if it hurts a lot going in and coming out. We're still going to eat you anyway. The ultimate act of defiance. I mean, yeah, no. Sorry, did I say all the nightshades? I was referring to all the nightshades that have come to the old world, or yeah, to what we call the old world. So the nightshades that are now actually so prevalent in Asian cuisine, which weren't before the Columbian Exchange. So potatoes, white potatoes, not sweet potatoes, corn, peppers, tomatoes, right? Those nightshades. Corn is not a nightshade. Sorry, I segued into other things. Nightshades, potatoes, peppers, tomatoes. Those are all New World. Those are not Old World. Corn is also New World, is not a nightshade, is now shockingly prevalent in Asia. Yeah, eggplants are old. That's why eggplants appear pretty heavily in medieval Persian cuisine. I love eggplants. Love them. And humans cultivated it to make it many times hotter. Oh yeah, sure. Talking about the selective monstrous breeding, the monstrously selective breeding of cultivars. Yeah, for certain. I mean, the peppers were already spicy, and then we decided to take them to the next level, next 20,000 levels, I guess, actually. Let me see. I do all kinds of things, bags and backpacks, but can make shirts and shorts, etc. Very nice, Eric. Yeah, I make all kinds of things as well. I just really enjoy the act of making things by hand in general. Peppers here meaning chilies. Yes, yes, yes. The confusing mix between peppercorns and chilies, which are unrelated. Yeah, totally. Classic case of we have a word for a thing and we're going to apply it to this new thing because, I mean, peppercorns are a spicy. I mean, they are for certain. If you've ever bitten into a whole peppercorn, you know that. It's a different kind of spice, but not entirely different. Like yeah, it's different and also not different. Anyway, typical case of English being lazy and instead of using the term with which they came, chili, deciding that we're going to call it a pepper instead rather than a chili pepper. Yeah. Yeah. We actually went to a tea plantation in Sri Lanka that had peppercorn plants. And so we actually got to eat the pepper fruit, little pepper berries before they had dried into peppercorns. That was an interesting experience. Also ate cinnamon bark straight cut right off of the cinnamon tree and got to see latex being cut and dripping fresh out of a rubber tree. That was very interesting. Let me see. I suppose beets would make a great dye. Beet dye is not color. It does not stay. So a lot of food dyes don't actually last. Fruit and vegetable dyes. Oh, there's a word for it. Fruit and vegetable dyes are not. There's one term that basically means the dyes don't stay. They're not dye fast anyway. They fade quickly and they wash out. So like even though it stains your hands pretty well and it'll stain your clothes when you actually use it as a dye and then subject it to the rigors of wearing, it doesn't do very well.
But if you use the right word,
I don't no, I mean using it as like people have tried dyeing it. I try, dyeing with blueberries and whatnot. It just even with a mordant, it doesn't last very long. Yeah. Yeah, beets, I mean, that turn your skin red, God knows. There's a different, yeah, color fast or dye fast. And there was another word and I don't remember what it was. It was something really cool and it was new. Um, yeah. I made a leather needle out of a framing nail because the ones at the store will break. Oh yeah, that's pretty awesome. Making your own tools, that's next level. I respect that level of commitment to one's craft for certain. I think sometimes people forget the layers of technology that it takes just to get to it. Something as simple as a metal needle, for instance. From rock to this finely, sharpened metal tool is a pretty long process. Let me see. Temporary hair dye. Yeah. Vinegar and rust dyes work well. I got one made from the lady I go to church with. Good Crusader vinegar and rust dyes work well for what specifically? Maybe I'm missing context. Also, sometimes comments arrive after I've moved on from a topic, depending on where people are in the world. So, yeah, sorry, Good Crusader. Just let me know. Vinegar and rust dyes work well for helping,
color fastness.
yeah, helping color fastness or what? Rust dyes have, if you mean rust using iron oxide, that has the extreme downside of corroding your fabric over time. Doesn't happen immediately, but
The color will still be there, but the fabric.
the fabric will not be there. Doesn't happen immediately, but it does happen eventually, and it does make the fabric more delicate because the oxidation process is not good for fibers.
Oh, so pretty.
It's pretty, but not good for it. It's like so many things, pretty, but not good for you. Yeah, exactly. Period black dye, as I mentioned earlier, is made for fabric, is made from a combination of things, including usually oak gall, which provide tannins, which provide tannins and provide iron also. And the iron oxide basically, the resulting process is oxidation, which is rust, which turns your shades this beautiful deep black, but that's why there's actually this extant 15th century banner in one of the Swiss churches. It's booty from Burgundian booty, as they call it in German, Burgunderbeute, from when Charles the Bold lost the two final battles of his career, basically, and had all of his things looted and taken back to Switzerland, and most of them got donated to churches as part of a ploy to get into heaven by the Swiss mercenaries. And there's a banner. One of Charles the Bold's banners is there, and it's beautiful. It's got fringe, silk fringe all the way around it in three colors: red, white, and what was black. The black fringe is all gone. The white and red is still there. Let me see. I love the 1800s. Do you churn your own butter? I do. I have churned my own butter for certain, but this is very much 1400s. So 400 years before the 1800s. The 1800s, it starts to get a little bleak for me. The post-industrial world has a lot of downsides, culturally and socially, not so much technologically. Obviously, I appreciate a lot of the technology of the post-industrial world. Trust me. People ask me all the time, would you like to live in the Middle Ages? No. Like, I don't even have to think about that. No, I'm a woman. Absolutely not. I likelihood of dying in childbirth, from complications of childbirth, you know, it's pre antibiotic world. No, I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to die of a paper cut. Or not a paper cut in the Middle Ages, of any kind of minor little cut that goes septic, right? I don't need that. Nope. There are a lot of beautiful things about medieval social life and social culture, and I like recreating the beautiful aspects of medieval life. I'm not interested enough in the beautiful parts to want to relive the bad parts as well. Let me see. Sorry. Questions here. Blackwork became a status indicator because it showed you could replace the fabric much more frequently, or replace the work. Yeah, absolutely. I noticed that in my copper jewelry that it turns a pretty blue in the vinegar and salt. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. How long does it take for you to undress? Weird question, I know, but it's an honest question. No, it's cool. I was actually going to do an undressing video, maybe at Penzic, because I'll have my ladies with me and I'll have my nice medieval pavilion, so it'll be a good like environment for it. So dressing usually takes about an hour, fully dressed. I mean, fully dressed, all the layers with hair and everything done, whether it's Italian, full Florentine, or full Burgundian. It all takes about the same amount of time, roughly about an hour-ish. Depends on how much we talk while we're doing it. 45 minutes minimum. For undressing, it goes much more quickly. Undressing, I can generally do in 10 minutes or less. For the full layers, what you're seeing here is basically just base underlayers. Like, I just tossed my hair into a knot on the back of my head. My fringe is not done. It's just this gown and not the over gown and the over gown. So, probably 5 to 10 minutes to undress maximum. It doesn't take long. It really doesn't. Getting dressed takes a lot longer. Now, that's completely an honest question, and you're interested in seeing the getting dressed process. I have 2 different videos on getting dressed in this style of clothing. One of them is actually this gown and the other gowns that go with it. And I've got another video on getting dressed in high Burgundian fashion, so 1470s Burgundy, from the bottom layer all the way out to hair and headdress and everything. And then that one is capped off by a dance performance in the freshly attired clothing with my lady, with my dame d'honneur. By the way, something I recently learned, the term lady in waiting is not a medieval English term. It first appears in that form, as far as I know, in the 18th century. So in the Middle Ages in medieval English, they were just referred to as their ladies. Right. Let me see. Do you know a blacksmith? I've been trying to find one.
To make what?
Blacksmith to make what exactly? Because not all blacksmiths make the same kind of things. And where are you in the world, Eric? That matters a lot too. Yeah, so Charles getting dressed, 45 minutes to an hour. And you can see the videos of the process. 2 of the videos have lots of explanations with historical sources cited in that. And one of them, the one in this outfit, is just sort of a beautiful artsy fartsy depiction of me getting dressed in this. Still practical. You can see what's happening, but no voiceover, just music, authentic 15th century music, and my lady and myself. Right. So yeah, if you look getting dressed and you make sure you go to like full video format instead of the shorts, because there's like 1,000 shorts of me getting dressed, then you can find the full length format videos of the getting dressed process. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Durazzi. I think I'm cute too. Do you watch The Handmaid's Tale? My mom loves that show. The headdress reminds me of it. Yeah, so the headdress was chosen on purpose in A Handmaid's Tale because it's actually supposed to sort of look like what the Amish are wearing, which is definitely a hand-me-down of medieval fashions. I've read A Handmaid's Tale and I've seen some of the episodes of A Handmaid's Tale, but honestly, the way things are going these days, it's too close to reality, so I can't do it. I have seen some of the episodes though. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I'm just doing a blind stitch here on this veil edge. And the whole purpose of a blind stitch is to have minimal amount of thread exposed to the environment. So most of the thread ends up inside of the fabric. You have little stitches that show on the front, little tiny stitches that show on the back, but for the most part, the thread is buried inside. And this is my go-to hemming stitch if I want to take the time, if I have the time, and I care about redoing or not redoing the hem repeatedly. I could have done a whip stitch on this too, and that probably would have worked out. I wanted minimum amount of thread showing on front and back though, because the veil is going to be moving around. And so you will get to see both sides, both the back side and the front side, as it were. So I just wanted minimum amount of stitching showing because it's not decorative stitching and it's not supposed to be, right? In the depictions of these veils, they are almost so translucent as to be invisible. And so obviously that to me says that probably the stitches should be relatively invisible too. Yeah. Okay, we are at the last stitch on this thread, I'm pretty certain, and then I'm going to tie it off. And then I think we're going to call that a wrap for today. Okay, so I'm going to give everyone a chance. Any last questions about anything? Also, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. I'd like to thank my patrons today and my channel members again for their very generous support of my work, my research, and my recreation into historical cultures of the past. And I would also like to thank my channel sponsor, Armor and Castings. Handsome, could you please bring me the coronet, I guess? Armor and Castings, who also very kindly sponsor my channel and provide me with some of the best reproduction medieval bling there is. For instance, Armor and Castings made this coronet. Some of you saw this last week, but not all of you have. Armor and Castings has a website. They do amazing replicas from multiple eras and multiple cultures. Every kind of metal bling bit you could possibly need, they make. So can recommend. Oh, for instance, they also make rings and they make badges.
I wear
So
it all
it
the
needs
time.
it needs to be polished up a little bit. It needs some baking soda or something. Yeah. Thank you, Vicky. Much appreciated. So yeah, and also I would like to thank you all for joining me today, for getting creative with me, for conversing, for chatting, for having some really great questions, and also contributing some really great knowledge to the chat. I really appreciate that. Vicky, wait. Sorry, there's one last thing I want to address here. I've seen one that is almost done like the tablet weaving. Not sure how they did that. Almost seen one. What, Vicky? The hem. Oh, you mean you've seen a hem where they do it like tablet weaving? Yeah. So there's a technique. There is a technique whereby you actually tablet weave. You finish the hem by tablet weaving directly onto the hem, and the weft is actually the thread that secures the tablet weaving to the fabric. Right, so the warp is set up along the line, right? So you set up the warp along the line of your hem, and then the weft, what would normally be only going through and creating, binding it all together, also goes through the fabric. And that's how you do that. That's how you tablet weave a hem directly on, if that's what you were talking about, Vicky. Yeah. Let me know if that was not what you were talking about, and we end the stream before you can get it out. Just pop it in the comments. Also, if you all are feeling up for it and you're willing, once the video is posted, if you just go and leave an emoji or any random comment, it tells the algorithm that people are watching my content and want more of it, etc., etc. You know the drill, guys. I'm sorry, this is the ecosystem in which I must function. In order for me to keep doing this kind of stuff, I need to grow the channel so that eventually you know, hopefully we'll actually make enough money to live on. Otherwise, eventually I'm going to have to actually do something else, which I would rather not do. That's what you need to show us. Yeah. Okay, everyone. I appreciate you all so much. You have a lovely weekend wherever you are in the world. Tomorrow on Irish Medieval History, I will be joining Philip on his channel, and we will be talking about medieval May Day practices from Ireland to Italy. So if you're interested in wandering down the salacious world of the lusty month of May, join us there. Irish Medieval History at 8 p.m. Seoul time, which I guess is 12 p.m. Europe. And for my America's people, I'm sorry, that's going to be either crazy late or crazy early for you. But we were trying a different time slot just to see. But otherwise, you can catch the recording. Yeah, Irish Medieval History, exactly. Irish Medieval History is Philip's channel. Yeah, he and I are friends and we're collaborators and we work really hard to support each other. So if you could support Philip, I would appreciate that because he's covering Irish medieval history, which is like an almost unknown topic. Yeah. Okay, everyone, I thank you all again. And if you have any more questions, I mean, other than leaving an emoji, if you have any more questions, pop them in the comments under the video. Okay, everyone, see you hopefully tomorrow or next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. If anyone gets that reference, let me know. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank my condottiero for joining us today and helping demonstrate the two-person finger loop braid.
Perhaps don't associate me with that.
Don't associate me with that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the channel's name is actually Irish Medieval History, properly. Medieval medieval history. Yep. Good stuff. Okay, I really am ending it now. Bye, guys.